Hello everyone, welcome back to Marvel Mania. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And you are tuning into the penultimate episode.
Penultimate?
That's right. We just have X-Men Apocalypse left, and then we're doing Doctor Strange tomorrow.
Which was originally going to be the last one.
It was, and we took too long to make these.
Well, and Doctor Strange came out way faster than we thought it would.
Yeah, it actually still would have come out.
Yeah.
I think even if we were day-to-day on time,
I think so. It would have been real close, but I think so.
We would have gotten there. But we also could have just waited a week and gone ahead and done it, I suppose. Yeah. But anyway, so here we are today doing X-Men Apocalypse, and Eric and I have been weirdly kind of excited to do this, even though neither of us loves this movie.
Well, and I've never gotten to talk about this movie, and I have so many issues.
You haven't gotten to talk about it at all, and I've only seen it, you know, the twice in the theater, and it's going to be interesting seeing it with you, just because I don't think I've seen this with anybody. I think both times I went by myself, but I know you feel really strongly about certain things, and I feel very strongly about other certain things, primarily continuity stuff with Days of Future Past.
Well, and I think most of the things that I feel strong about and you still feel strong about, we both agree with, too. It's just the Days of Future Past stuff isn't as much of an issue for me as other things. Well, except for Mystique. I mean, it's all about Mystique.
Well, the deal is,
Mystique ruins this movie before this movie's bad on its own.
And I don't have that, and also, with respect, you walked in expecting that, and I think it wasn't as bad as what you were thinking when you walked in, but I think to you it was.
Well, it's not that she takes over this movie, which is what I thought it was.
Yeah.
It is that she becomes a messianic figure built on no foundation.
Yeah.
Because that's not what happens at the end of the... No one watches the end of
But that is still we're not paying attention to Days of Future Past problem.
Yes.
But in character motivation, which is honestly worse than retconning stuff that's not based as much around character thing, except that with her, what we thought was happening at the end with Wolverine would have been really interesting and would have been a far more cool and intriguing place to take her. So I guess that is still a character motivation problem. But
and also something that you didn't have to immediately pay off. Like, we could have taken a movie. We could have done Apocalypse and not used her.
Yeah, and you wasted it for a cameo.
Yep.
But anyway, so that's our entire commentary on X-Men Apocalypse. Thanks a lot.
I'm gonna try to keep my criticism of Jennifer Lawrence to a minimum.
Oh, it's okay. I mean, whatever you want to talk about. I'm just saying that stuff wasn't as big of a problem for me, except the end, because especially knowing now that she's probably not coming back.
Oh, yeah.
Like, where we left her, that's a real big problem. But whatever, anyway. So, we're telegraphing hard how we feel about this movie. But we'll see if it wins us over anymore as we're watching it. Because, again, this is of course, a very new movie and a very new movie to me. But
yeah. And anyway. I saw this once in theaters.
But let's go ahead and get into it. If you want to watch it with us, get out your DVD, your Blu-ray, your digital copy, however you want to watch it. Make sure to get it past all the menus to timestamp 0 and get ready to press play whenever I say now. Here we go, Eric.
I want to watch it in Shadow Puppet. Can I do that?
You can watch it
however I want to watch it.
Yep, you could watch it through one eye if you wanted to. You can watch it through a Viewmaster.
If someone, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
If someone wants to make a video of this movie in Shadow Puppet, I'll watch it.
Anything short of just listening to the film, because we've done that already, and that was hard. All right, here we go. Everybody, you could, or chess playing vision. You know, you just have, like, a couple of dudes in shadow, in front, kind of like a la MST3K, playing chess in front of the film.
If someone could figure out how to shadow puppet someone with hair losing their hair and then being bald,
yeah,
I'd be impressed.
Somebody needs to make a video that just puts together every stupid hair thing ever.
Yeah.
Right?
The Smallville, the
Smallville thing. And, yeah, I mean, honestly, that's the least egregious of them.
Yeah. At least it's up front.
That was, yeah, and it was a choice that like informs that character all the way through.
And it comes from like old 50s Superman comics.
Yeah, like that one's not nearly as bad.
It's just part of a constant stream of, well, no one just chooses to be bald.
Yeah.
It all comes from something.
Anyway, everybody please press play.
Clark was bald when he was 20.
Yeah. Everybody please press play right now.
You remember when Picard was bald when he was 20 and he looked like Bane?
Mm-hmm. Well, I remember when he had a picture of Shinzon on his desk and pretended like it was him. I remember that. That's on my stack for He Made Me Watch.
Yes, it is. It's right over there in that stack. No one can see it, but
it's one of my... yeah, it's right there. I can see it from here. It's one of the only movies I... It's I can't get excited as much with Days of Future Past, but, you know, I still love that theme and the logo and stuff. But what was I saying? Oh, I think that's one of the only, like, not good movies I put there just because I'm curious to watch your reaction.
Got Dungeons and Dragons, because it's my favorite bad movie.
Maybe
that's the one big
maybe
bad one.
After we do Apes, because that's the next thing we've got to do. Maybe after we, because you haven't seen the last Apes movie. After we do that, maybe we should do two bad ones. That'd be fun.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
All right.
Although, if we watch Dungeons and Dragons, Sarah has to watch with us. Because she likes bad movies and fantasy.
Yeah, but you won't be able to get her to watch Nemesis. That's not going to happen.
That's fine. That's fine. She's seen it before.
So, right out the gate, I do have to say, I really like that this opens with the now classic Xavier monologue, but it's McAvoy. That's great.
But I'm also not sure that this makes sense.
Oh no, what we're seeing may not make sense. I just like the choice of having him do the narration.
I mean, the words he's saying, I don't think make sense.
Right.
Well, not doesn't make...
I don't know, what doesn't make sense about it?
It's not that it doesn't make sense, it's that it's really specific.
Xavier has always been talking about evolution and DNA, and now all of a sudden it's... Some mutants think they're gods.
If there was a prophecy and it said someone would be a god and they believed they would be a god, maybe they'd take advantage of it. Well, yeah, maybe!
Sure, yep, that could happen. They also could be really benign and turn into Superman, or...
See, it's not actually about this, it is him doing like a...
Instead of trying to figure out some way to have an opening that is thematically relevant, but with him saying it. Honestly, it would make more sense if Moira was saying that, to be perfectly honest with you.
It's him... It's him at like a creative writing class. He's telling the students like what their story has to be about. I don't like this opening, or I remember not liking this opening because I feel like it takes way too long, and boy, do I not care. That's what I remember about this.
Being a big waste of time. I mean, I think it was maybe an obligatory thing, and not in a bad way, but like I think you kind of had to start with this where you left us with that after credits scene last time.
Yeah.
This goes without saying, but this all looks real Stargate, yeah?
Yeah. I just started watching Stargate. The TV show. I've seen the movie.
That's why I mentioned it.
It's okay. Although I think I've only seen the director's cut, and I wonder if the theatrical cut is more tightened up.
Oh, you maybe the film?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant the show's just okay.
No, it's all right. I just watched an episode where they go meet
That's
Mongols.
Also real Stargate.
Yep.
Immediately you're expecting a Goa'uld to go in there. Oh, but wait, it closes itself back up. I guess we can't get a Goa'uld in there.
Yeah, Sarah was right, by the way. Episode 3, they just go to a planet. They're like, hey, there's Mongols here. I guess we'll just hang out. Oh, they hate women. I guess we'll keep hanging out.
Even though there's some people that we lost that we should probably be trying to go after.
My wife, my surrogate son.
Yeah. This doesn't look bad or anything.
No.
There was some somewhat shoddy CGI of the building outside, but...
And this is the only time he looks like himself?
Yeah, I mean, he is indistinguishable in that role.
Yeah.
And it disappears, but I don't know if I can say, like, in a really impressive way or anything.
No, I think I've told you this before.
A lot of people hate his performance. I don't hate it. I'm just not, like...
Oh, I hate his
I'm not won over by it.
My big takeaway...
What is his name again?
Poe Dameron?
Yeah, it's not right off coming to me either.
Isaac... Mendez?
No, see, that's where my
Oscar Isaacs.
Oscar Isaacs, there it is. No, Isaac Mendez is from Heroes.
My big takeaway... Right? Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. My big takeaway from...
Questioning everything now.
From his performance in this is that I'm pretty sure his performance is based on screaming babies. Because that's all he does is he screams. He never speaks. He only screams like a petulant child, just angry that the world's not giving them what they want.
You want to save that for the right moment, you know?
Yeah.
But I guess if you thought you were a god and no one is acknowledging that and taking you seriously, you might just go around constantly screaming too. But you shouldn't have to. You should be able to you know, use your powers to make people subservient so you don't have to do that.
Now, maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe I'll watch this movie and he actually delivers lines of dialogues. But as I recall, he just shouts everything. All lines of dialogue
I don't remember that, but wouldn't it have been a lot more interesting if he got some people to go on his side and see him and worship him like a god willingly, instead of only being able to do that with mind control? And I really thought that's where we were going with this, like with the trailers. When we speculated about this movie after the initial trailer, I had a whole thing about how it looked like maybe Apocalypse was like the progenitor for a lot of religious ideas, and that we would kind of that it might make people rethink and question their religion once they see him.
And those are the kind of ideas that you would think the X-Men films would deal with.
Right.
I understand that we never deal with that stuff in comics, but given the way these films deal with the material that they're dealing with, it feels like that is the logical place that these filmmakers would take it.
Well, considering you saw some of the thematic crux of Days of Future Past in the trailer, I really expected that to be the main idea of this, because they front-loaded it, and they gave us that right away, and it sounded immediately intriguing. And we all had every reason to think that this was going to be the next logical but great epic step forward for this franchise.
This was my most anticipated film last year of superhero films.
And one of the most disappointing, I thought.
Yeah. So, yeah,
relative to other... I mean, I saw movies that were worse than
this. Oh, absolutely. About here, timestamp-wise, I'm ready for this scene to be done.
Okay, that's fair.
At least in the theater. I don't know. We're just kind of watching it.
No,
but in the theater, I was...
You know what it feels like? It feels like like an opening to a DC direct-to-video animated movie.
Yeah.
I'm not with any particular character, and like they mention Inhabensur or whatever his name is. What is his name? I always do that. I always mix it up with Green Lantern.
En Sabanur.
Thank you.
How could you possibly confuse that with
Abensur?
Abensur. How could you they're so different.
So you hear his name, and obviously you see him, and we're mostly looking at him, but he's transforming, and nobody watching this movie that's not familiar with this material is, I would figure, can be real invested or really appreciates any of what's going on right now.
Well, and you know what the problem? You know what I think the biggest problem with that scene is? We get no sense of him as a character. It doesn't tell me anything about Apocalypse.
That's my point, yeah.
If you have that scene, it needs to tell you something.
You can only glean anything if you know the material, and even if you do, you don't know that it's going to run with that. It would be something else entirely. So, unfortunately, not digging on these opening credits.
No.
The CG's pretty shoddy, and
it's supposed to be time moving
and
forward.
Yeah, and that's not fair, because you know, it is an animated opening, and it doesn't have to look realistic or anything, but it looks like we need to spend more time on it to me. I don't know.
Cards there. Was that supposed to be a Gambit thing?
I have no idea.
Was that supposed to set up the Gambit movie?
I don't think so.
Let's get real excited.
No, honestly, I was looking at you when we saw that, so okay. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, it's going through like all these inventions.
Right, no, I know, but I don't know what the card thing was. I don't remember cards, so sorry.
Pandemonium in Paris.
And here's the thing. I want, like, that's kind of a cool idea to go through the timeline like that, except that consistently it's always been about the science. It's always been DNA and stuff, and even when it was about the Sentinels, it was still that. And so I guess there's a part of me that kind of just wants to stay consistent with that, where maybe we can mix that with Egyptian hieroglyphics or something, you know what I mean? Like DNA, but it looks kind of Egyptian-y somehow, I don't know.
Yeah, see, right there, that teacher,
yeah,
she just said, in a class about Mystique, she has become the face of the new world.
Right.
That's not what happened in that movie.
Well, explain that to folks, though, because I saw some comments last time where you didn't elaborate enough, and there are people who don't understand what you're talking about. Like, that's... that's not what happened in the last movie. We didn't see the aftermath. What are you talking about? I know what you're talking about, but what are you talking about?
If you were watching television and someone tried to murder the president and then chose not to, that is not, to anyone other than the people personally involved, a heroic act. It is not something you would rally around. It is not a figure that would become important and you would strive to be them.
The argument on the other side is the filmmakers are not communicating what they think they're communicating, because I am not positive what was exactly televised. And we talked about that with Days of Future Past. That because Xavier says all you've done so far is save the lives of these men. If somehow or rather, like, the cameras get shut off and when everybody gets frozen, if all anybody saw was her saving people, as opposed to actually, if they didn't see the gun, then they might have surmised all of this. But my bigger issue is that the end of Days of Future Past gives you the sense that she is not so benign in her motivations, necessarily.
Well,
her name is Mystique, and they're giving us a sense that there is still mystique to this character. And you get to this movie, and there is none. So my point is, you are probably right. But even if you're not, it is still a problem.
Well, and it's not the implication that you got from the end of that movie. You don't get the sense that
did someone call him Blob?
It looks like he looks dead now.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
Is that Blob?
That is Blob.
Did someone call him Blob? So here is our new younger Birdwing man.
Yep.
Is he younger, or is he just the same age? Because
no, I think he's like 20 something. He's early 20s, whereas other one was older 20s.
I think he might have still been early 20s, honestly, but I don't know. Well, no, this guy could be like, I mean, because these are all sort of teenagers or real late teens, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's what all the,
so he probably
the
is
students
still younger,
are. I don't know about him, but he looks pretty young. I remember liking his design. I don't remember feeling anything about his performance.
At all.
I don't remember if I liked him, disliked him. I don't remember anything about I forgot he was in this movie until this moment.
But yeah, this is odd. Again, I don't remember some of the stuff right off because I haven't seen this much. But I forgot that we introduced Nightcrawler and Angel in the same scene.
Underground Fight Club.
And yeah, Underground Fight Club. Eric and I are always on about how everything has to have an Underground Fight Club at some point. But Nightcrawler and Angel are your, like, from two different movies, your new kind of auxiliary X-Men that come in and leave real quick. And it's just kind of interesting that we decided to introduce them both here, especially because it just kind of immediately calls attention if you're a fan of these movies and you at any point cared about the chronology of it, that, oh yeah, we took these characters totally out of the timeline and just threw them in here. Here they are now.
Which was the big thing when we were having a conversation about this moving forward. Before this movie came out, that Angel was the one that broke you, where you're like, well, no, it's still the same time. I'm like, but Angel's in this, and he's like 20. You're like, oh, they don't care.
Yeah, they don't care. And again, let me remind folks that the reason that's a problem is, and yeah, the story's great, then I guess whatever, but like I had with, of course, with Star Trek 09, if you're gonna reboot out of original continuity, keep everything, keep in mind what happened at what point up to where you changed the timeline. Otherwise, you might as well straight up reboot.
Yeah.
It's a little bit insulting to the intelligence of people who are invested and takes you out of the thing. Because you're basically using that as an excuse to retcon as opposed to making it a natural way to be able to move forward and have everything count from farther back. And this does that as bad or worse than Star Trek did it.
Why did she change her clothes? Like, they were in the club, she was in the sexy dress, and then she was in this. And I don't know why. Maybe it does make sense if I was paying more attention, but
I don't know.
But yeah, no, it's...
Maybe so that she wouldn't call attention to herself? I don't know.
But yeah, because these characters are all between 15 and 20. So
Nightcrawler makes a little more sense. Like, he's real young here, and we never get a definitive age for him, so it is possible that that is the same character, and he...
Well, and he's got the burn scar things.
Yeah, but I think not as many, which if I'm right, adds credence again to my argument that when he says one for every sin, it means the ones he commits. I am already gearing up for some things I found a little painful and wished we hadn't done.
Like all of this?
Uh-huh. It just ends up feeling like a movie that was rushed and that...
They didn't have an idea of what to do with Magneto next.
They didn't have an idea of what to do next.
No, they had no idea what to do next, which is so weird because they were so excited.
Yeah. And it doesn't feel like a movie they were excited to make.
No. It feels like an obligation, but we know that this was not a studio rushing this movie. They rushed to make it.
And I don't understand the point of that. It is the least amount of time we ever had between these movies, not counting The Wolverine and The Days of Future Past, which are made by two separate sets of people. Mm-hmm. And one doesn't have X-Men in the title. It was always at least 3 in between before that. They should have taken at least another year. Because I get the sense that it's the story that's rushed more than anything.
Yeah, it's the writing.
You got people out of character, you got... Once again, stuff that just doesn't line up from what we were doing last time.
Well, and like there's...
And I gave Days of Future Past so much credit for doing Star Trek 09, for outdoing Star Trek 09. And then I think this, continuity-wise, has bigger issues than Darkness does. I'm not going to call it a worse movie than Darkness, but...
And there's... I think they might be on par.
At this point,
there's certain,
I think they might be on par, yeah.
There's certain... except I enjoyed Darkness in the theater. It was a fun ride, and I will never go back to it because I know it's a bad movie.
Yeah.
I did not have that with this. But I was also way more excited for this than I was for Darkness. But
yeah, I gave Darkness mad props when it came out, and it falls apart the more I see it. I see it.
There are certain things that I think...
Or what are we, at Jean Grey's house? Sorry.
No, we are at 25-year-old Alex Summers, who is now 20 years past 1963. This is my biggest, like, how old is he?
Just put a little grayness here, and we would at least have a sense of how old he's supposed to be.
Let's say he's 22 in 1963. He should be 42.
Yeah.
It took me out of this movie immediately.
Yeah, but that almost makes Xavier worse. Honestly, Xavier should have just been bald when the movie opens. That immediately helps his age.
Yeah, and he looks great bald.
Yeah.
That didn't need to take that long.
That immediately makes him feel like he's a little older. But if you weren't a weird girl, I would not mind at all. Yeah, I was not immediately impressed with either of those new actors, honestly, with Scott and Jean. And I think they started to win me over a little bit more toward the end, and I think you can build on their performances.
I don't remember having issues with Scott by the end of it.
I'm not impressed with her.
And I like her.
And some of that might be directing, but I feel like that opening exchange was far more melodramatic than it needs to be.
Well, and that's somewhat the directing and a lot the writing. That was not a well-written scene.
It's not a well-written scene. And once again, Xavier doesn't look even 40, and he should be quite a bit older than Alex, so... Or at least a little bit older than Alex.
There are seeds of good ideas in this movie. I think the idea of what we do with Magneto is interesting in 3 or 4 movies. He has been in hiding. We have not seen him. He has been living a quiet life. Something rips him out of it. The immediate next movie, boy, do I not care.
Yeah.
It feels so generic.
And
it's basically the X-Men Origins Wolverine backstory.
It feels forced because we've got to throw him back to where he was in First Class. It's that bookended, telling the same story differently thing that we're always talking about with trilogies. And I think I didn't think about that until now, but I think this movie has some of that, doesn't it? At the very least with Magneto. But then more of what it has is repeating X2 things that Days of Future Past repeated in pretty, for the most part, artistic and clever ways. And this ends up feeling like Singer just... it's
like he can't make another
rehashing
movie.
His greatest hits again, yeah. Yeah, he's trapped in X2 world.
And I think he would have if he'd made X3 after he made X2.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Is that is the one movie he made that people legitimately love, and he just keeps making that movie.
Well, because how much of it is banking on nostalgia that your audience has for that movie, and how much of it is banking on your own?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there's clearly that in Days of Future Past. The problem is, it's okay in Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
It is his big return. It is the goodbye to that cast.
But we gotta move on from that.
Yeah. No, this movie should feel like something completely different. Because it's the next... It's kind of the first movie in this new franchise.
And it almost feels like he wishes he still had that cast. Like he directs them almost like they're B-list versions to some degree. I think. That might be harsh. That's how I feel about it. I know a lot of people were really excited about this new cast. And I think cool things could be done with them. Well, and I'm not unhappy with the cast on the whole. I love their Storm.
Mm.
Like, I really like her a lot. But I'm also not convinced that they're ever going to do anything with Cyclops still.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's the thing is...
Some of it's just they didn't give them enough to do, so they didn't have enough to work with. But Storm, that actress I was enamored with immediately. There's something about her affect. I don't know what it is, but there's something in her eyes. I like her a lot. This
movie has so many of the same problems as we talked about with Last Stand. This movie is very similar to Last Stand. It cannot decide from scene to scene whether this is the last movie for these characters or if it is the first movie for the new characters, and none of them get enough screen time or enough center.
Was that really the problem with Last Stand, though?
It was while we were watching it. Remember how we were talking about they brought in all of these new characters, and so you have to have time for Colossus because now he's a character, and the Bobby Kitty thing, and we were bringing all these new characters. That felt like an issue of
too many characters before it was whose movie is it? Like, I didn't get the sense that anybody was leaving, except for the ones that we killed and put in graves. Here, it really is that kind of send-off thing, but not.
Yeah, it wants to be the last movie of a trilogy and the first movie of a new trilogy or a new series.
And that's a different problem than what Last Stand had, but it does have a lot of similar problems and the biggest being too many characters, not knowing how to juggle them.
And it does both really poorly. This is not a great outing for this new cast, and it's a terrible ending for the previous cast.
They both have really lackluster, godlike villains.
Mm-hmm.
Which they both have Magneto acting out of character.
Which is interesting because it feels like this Apocalypse is a villain. If you're so upset that you never got to do the Phoenix, Apocalypse is a villain that would have, in some ways, given you the opportunity to do that movie that you wanted to make. Make that movie. But he didn't. Apocalypse is nothing in this. Oh, it's glowing. You don't see that often.
Yeah, those... The glyphs there were weird because they almost look like Star Trek panels to me. They almost look like Cardassian or something, or Klingon.
That seems really far under the ground. Not just like a little bit far into the ground, but like really far into the ground.
Do you know anything about how far under the ground we buried Egyptian, godlike entities?
No, but they're the most dangerous burying that in the animal kingdom. That joke didn't work. Okay, so I have a question. He has to jump from body to body to sustain his life
yes,
or whatever.
Yes.
How is he alive? If he ages and dies and has to move from body to body, he's been under there for 2,000 years no, more than that, like 4,000 years. Is it him expending energy drains his body?
Or is the tomb he's in, does it have technology that sustains him while he's in it, but then if he leaves...
But nothing was connected to him until just now. I don't know. Also, what is...
Right, but it's a chamber. It could be like a life chamber or something. I don't really understand this technology. Everything is glowing around him.
I know what it is in the comics, but I don't know here.
Okay.
Well, and that glowing came from within him, which is weird because that's not his power. He, like, rearranges matter. He's doing, like, this energy. What is all of this? That's not what he does for the rest of this movie. It's not what he does in the comics. Like, I don't understand where he's getting these energies from.
And at this point, this is not a question that I can hardly even ask, because we just don't care about what the other continuity was anymore, and we're...
Oh, yes, we have to talk about this.
And we're hoping that you just ignore it because we've soft rebooted now. But again, because it was supposed to... I know this can be irritating to people, but I'm sorry, folks. It distracts me because of what they told me it was. Did this happen the first time? Did Moira go find that in the first continuity?
No, if you're making this movie, the first thing that I think you should do...
Now, it could just be a butterfly effect. Let me say that thing, and that might be okay. It could just be Moira wouldn't have, because of wherever she was in First Class, well, no, because because First Class isn't where it changes, it stays a future past. Mm-hmm. So that all happened in both timelines. So ever since then, I don't know that anything would have changed for Moira. So I'm just saying, it seems like that would have happened in both timelines.
What should have happened in this movie...
Yeah, what am I talking about?
Someone that was majorly affected and changed and set on a different path at the end of Days of Future Past needs to be the reason Apocalypse wakes up. Preferably Mystique, since she's in a weird place at the end of Days of Future Past. Not this, she's a messianic saint in this. But at the end of Days of Future Past, she's in a very strange place. It makes sense that she is now going a different direction than she went the first time, and that leads to Apocalypse coming back. It needs to...
Whatever that is.
It needs to do something that comes out of the fact that this is an alternate timeline.
You could have had a pseudo-mystical Weapon X program.
Because it really does play like there was no thought put into whether this happened in the original timeline or all. How does Apocalypse...
And it's exactly the same problem as Khan. Mm. Well, it's not exactly the same. It's similar to that.
Because we go back to Ancient Egypt, which suggests that in the original X-Men films, that still happened in Ancient Egypt.
Yeah.
Why wasn't Apocalypse woken up? And if he was, why does no one talk about it? Because the conversation at the beginning of X-Men 1 is not the conversation you'll be having after somebody blows up all of the nukes. It's not, could mutants be dangerous? It's, yeah, a big blue one took all of our weapons. Mm-hmm.
Another issue this has is it just doesn't have as much fun as the other two films did with alternate history. Mm-hmm. And I like the idea of doing alternate history going all the way back, which is what that opening title sequence is supposed to evoke. But it doesn't seem to matter that it's the 80s in the same way it did with the 60s and 70s. We don't make this a particular...
And maybe there is no big event. I think we looked into this at some point. Maybe there is no big event in 83.
Yeah, and that's not a big deal. It doesn't have to be. It's just... We don't even have as much fun with the time period. Mm-hmm. You know, I think it's possible to watch 20 minutes of this if you haven't seen the other two and not even really know when it's set.
Yeah. Jean Grey wears a jacket with padded shoulders. There's a couple of style things, but I also appreciate that it's not parody, because it's really easy to go over the top with the 80s.
Well, of course, yeah. I mean, it's easy to do that with any period, though. And we managed that with the other two.
Yeah,
and we made the 70s feel pretty authentic.
But this feels like it's having no fun with its setting, which is weird given that it's the 80s. And that's a period But I think we as a culture cannot get away from and stop throwing back to. And we have an X-Men movie set in the 80s, and this is
And the 80s is a massive time for X-Men.
It's the heyday of the X-Men. It is the end of the Byrne Claremont run.
We do the Storm Mohawk, but that's about it.
Yeah, yeah. But 83 is around the end of the Byrne Claremont stuff, which is the most important and biggest X-Men run there has ever been.
And will ever be.
And that's
almost certainly.
Yeah. And that's when everyone noticed the X-Men, when it gets real big. And then, obviously, Claremont runs. Anything you know about X-Men happened between, like, 78 and 90. Mm-hmm. Everything we keep recycling happens in that period.
That's why it was a missed opportunity not to tonally make this feel a little bit more like that period. And you could argue, well, we didn't really do that with the 60s or the 70s. Maybe a little bit with the 60s.
And we do it... No. Days of Future Past is a real 60s film. I mean, there's a lot of like
70s, because
First Class is really 60s. It's really throwing back to Bond and a lot of that stuff. And so is
honestly, I feel like Days of Future Past almost feels a little bit more like an 80s movie, but I mean, for totally for X-Men, like I shouldn't say movie. I mean story-wise, like certainly, again, they nail that period and stuff. But I don't know that it feels like I'm looking at '70s X-Men comics. But
well, no.
But this just feels like more Singer X-Men to me. That happens to be set in that period, and I think that's a missed opportunity. And it's going to be real unfortunate if, when we get to the 90s, we don't go for a real
cartoon,
X-Men animated series feel.
Well, and we give them those costumes at the end of this movie, and they look horrendous, but we get those costumes.
I also don't know that you can be sure that that's the costumes they stick with, because you got 10 more years.
And I've learned to trust nothing from any of these films.
It is weird to introduce those and not use them next time, but think about it. A decade later, they're old now. Next time we see them, they're old now.
Well, and it's also, nothing I have ever been promised at the end of this trilogy has come true. We had the best Magneto helmet we've ever had, not in the next movie. We have the Mystique stuff where she's run Weapon X. Not in the next movie.
Well, let's not say that. We don't know what's going on there, but where she's pretending to be Stryker and gets Wolverine. That's as far as we can take that. I don't know if she's running Weapon X.
But that's not in this movie.
Nope.
She didn't do that, and we will see the Weapon X program and Stryker.
And I remain real irritated about that. I just feel like I was real messed with that. You end that on a really cool kind of cliffhanger, and I'm being asked to ignore the thing that you left me with.
Yeah, because I didn't realize, or I didn't remember until we rewatched it. It is the last frame of the movie. It's the last
frame of the movie, and it was a thing that they decided retroactively, if I'm understanding it correctly.
But I don't care. You can't do that.
Well, no. If you decided retroactively, you have to commit to it. No, it was a great idea. They shot that, and then at the last minute, they said, we should have her. We should have the eyes glow and or turn whatever color it is. Is it orange? Is it, I forget. But
it's yellow. It's
yellow, that's right. But turn whatever color it is, and then we'll know that it's Mystique. And I'm totally cool with you made that choice at the end. And it watches like they probably even had to change what he the voiceover a little bit to match it.
Well, and
they were thinking about it.
Given that they're making this movie almost immediately after that movie.
I know I'm harping too much on that. It's my big thing.
But given that you're making this movie almost immediately after that movie, you would think either A, you're already starting writing this movie, and so you'd be like, well, don't do that because that's not where we're taking this, or B, you would put that in because you have a cool idea of how to do it, and it's neither.
Nope, it's just cool for that moment, and that's it.
Yep. This is all so rote. This is so been here, done this.
Yeah.
I'm so bored by these scenes. Who could care?
Yeah, to the point where I don't have anything to say about this Magneto stuff except I wasn't compelled by it. It seemed like a regression.
It seems like an excuse for a regression.
Yep.
We have to contrive a way that he can go back to how he was. This is the way.
Is there any reason we couldn't have at least had a full first act where we got to know him and his new family? It would have been, I think, really smart to get a sense of how he's changed before he falls back to this.
Mm-hmm.
Before, whenever he gets really passionately outraged, there's always a lot of energy, and it feels kind of twisted.
Mm-hmm.
Where I mean that's first class. Where to the point where I think it's almost a mistake that this scene is so silent. Like I get why we're doing that, but I think you're trying to tell me that Magneto has changed, and now he's going to turn back into the I hate humans, more us versus them serial killer version of Magneto, and as I said, I just feel like I need more time with him.
Yeah, this doesn't get to feel like a real change because we're with him for 5-10 minutes, and then he's right back to how we've seen him before.
Yeah.
You don't get to live with this version. And this is the worst thing ever. The worst.
Yeah.
Whoops.
It's so contrived.
It's the most contrived.
I think they think that they're...
Also, arrows don't move that fast. Stop it. It's got a metal tip.
No, he said no metal.
Oh, right. Because they know they're going fist Mania. That makes more sense. Okay.
No, he couldn't have stopped it.
Okay.
But... yeah, all I meant with the music thing, because I know that was kind of a weird point, is that he is... before, when he goes dark, there's so much energy in it. He's so passionate. And this feels real devoid... throughout, I think. It feels real devoid of that. I think they think that they're paralleling the opening of First Class when he's the kid. It's not even really a similar situation, though.
Oh, is that what it's supposed to be?
Well, I just thought of that. I'm not sure.
I'm interested to listen to the commentary and hear what they have to say.
Yeah.
And this isn't nearly as cool as I think they think it is. I don't know.
I know I'm on about music. Honestly, I would have brought back the First Class theme. Because that immediately tells you, like, yeah, he's back.
And this is kind of silly.
Yeah, that's real Last Temptation of Christ or something.
Yeah.
And as always, Fassbender's giving it as everything.
And he's never been a religious person. This doesn't feel like what Magneto would do.
He's talking to nobody, I mean...
But he's looking up specifically.
Well, his family was Jewish.
Is this what you want from me? Yeah. But I've never gotten the impression that he's Jewish by faith.
They've never made that a major part of his character. Most certainly. And also a guy that at the very least comparatively kind of sees himself and his kind as gods compared to the rest of people worshipping God is kind of strange.
Yeah.
Although you could do something with that. I mean, that could be really interesting, but I like the idea of relative godhood. Yeah, that's a thing I've talked about a lot. This song is the first...
I forgot their hair doesn't start gray.
Oh, yeah. Because we always got to do a hair thing, Eric.
Yeah, why can't she just have gray hair?
But yeah, that song, I can't remember if that was a Duran Duran song or who that was, but with it changed to have Arabic lyrics. That's the first one of the first real major senses that, oh, I'm in the 80s now.
He's a big, scary blue guy. I hate it when we do this in movies, where it's like, we're not going to acknowledge how weird this is.
But Eric, if you're a homeless guy and you stay out in the sun too long, you turn blue. Don't you know that? This is what happens to you.
And he is very specifically blue.
I'm sure it's supposed to be that thing, though, where it's what we can see versus what they're supposed to kind of be seeing.
You don't think they... Well, he calls him Clownface, so he can see his face.
Okay.
But he's just like...
All right.
He's just like, oh, you're a silly-looking guy. I'm like, no, he's scary-looking.
Okay. So it's not asking us to suspend our
disbelief. Yeah, it's not
thing.
like they see darkness.
Yeah. Well, that's an unfortunate situation to be in.
Of all the ways I thought I would die, this was not one of them.
Also, I'm still alive, and that's kind of freaking me out right now. Well, maybe he's dead already.
I know his eyes were moving a little bit.
Yeah, the movie thinks that's more menacing than I'm seeing it as. It just feels so standard supervillain.
And the way his face is, it feels silly. Like I want to laugh at it.
It's just, yeah, we're supposed to be unnerved by that, but I'm not. See, Eric, it's the 80s, because there's a picture of Ronald Reagan.
Yep. There's a picture of clocks. You remember when we used to have those back in the 80s?
Mm-hmm. We used to have clocks.
You're not a man that has a lot of clocks.
I have a lot of clocks. And most of them don't have batteries in them because they're like collectible clocks from various collections I have.
I got that cool Riddler one.
Yeah, I haven't put that up yet.
It's got the thing that goes back and forth. I'm sure that can't last very long. Like, there's batteries in it and it works, but how long can it do that, right?
Yeah, we stopped having clocks by the 90s, and then in the early 2000s, Coldplay made that song called Clocks, and it was this real weird, you know, throwback thing to technology that nobody uses anymore. It was really strange. And I had to Google clocks to figure out what they were even talking about.
And everyone made fun of them for it, and they're like, why didn't you just make a song called Pagers? We should get Tim Lyons to do a song called Pagers.
Then just because they got annoyed about people making fun of them, their next album was called Turntable.
I want someone to do a really sincere song about pagers. About, like, how annoying it is to constantly get paged. Like, as if, like...
You're back in the day.
No historical perspective. Or no, like, time has not passed. I'm so annoyed.
Or how much it sucks to wait for a fax.
Mm-hmm.
Although that can still happen. Pagers, not so much.
You could call it, like, 90s problems. Just sing about things that nobody actually has to deal with anymore.
I want to do that. That's a great idea.
Every time I connect to the internet, it's like...
I haven't played with my ukulele in a while. That doesn't explain Wolverine. Not that they know anything about that yet, but... having an ancient mutant and then nothing until Wolverine still does not explain Wolverine.
Mm-hmm. There's a whole weird thing with this in Fractions X-Men, where, like, they go back to the first mutant, because technically it's Namor is the first mutant.
Right.
But obviously that you have Apocalypse, stuff like that, and, like, he gives some kind of explanation for, like, no, those don't count. It's this.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it's Dr. Nemesis, because Dr. Nemesis is best. I hate that line.
Was in the but it was in the trailer, and I
hate it there.
Why?
I don't know. It's such the obvious place to go with this kind of thing. I mean, I guess...
It's also what people would be talking about.
Yeah.
Like sometimes the obvious thing is the thing you kind of have to do, Eric. I mean, what do you want them to start going into obscure religions that they wouldn't be familiar... You would be talking about your own culture.
Well, but they don't do anything with it.
No, but why is it a problem in the trailer? Like I was interested in that line in the trailer, and then we didn't do anything with it, and so now it's a problem. But
I don't know, because even the trailer felt throwaway to me. Like, I was kind of like, yes, of course. I don't know. Of course you do. What are they watching? Is that Star Trek?
Yeah, I think they did that again. Yeah, it is.
Okay.
And if
is he going to learn English from Star Trek? Because he's going to get some weird words that aren't words.
Yes, of course. There's a reason they picked that episode. Now, it's kind of silly that they did Star Trek twice. I might have gone to something else. But that is Who Mourns for Adonais. And that is the episode with Apollo, with the god.
Oh, you told me about this.
Yeah, that is actually an alien from another planet, but thinks it's a god and lives on the like physically lives on the worship of other people, like people worshiping him, and it's for obvious reasons a good pick for this. But we did a time travel Star Trek episode last time, and this time we're doing we're not only doing X2's greatest hits, but we're also repeating ourselves from last time.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, TOS was still majorly in syndication, and we did get to see some clips of some other shows and stuff just now. But I like that Pyramid was in there. Pyramid, $25,000, etc., Pyramid is my favorite game show of all time. But we also did Price is Right last time, so we've done a game show twice now.
But at least it's a different game show.
Now, Price is Right, you can only hear in the background, and you'd only know that if you were real familiar with Bob Barker's voice, which is interesting because, if memory serves, 73, I think, is the first year for Bob Barker on Price is Right, so if it had taken place in 72, they couldn't have done that, unless they thought about it like pinball machines and they didn't care. Also, it looks like you could play the $25,000 pyramid with that wall.
I just want you to explain to me what he's saying, what it means,
oh, I don't know, I'm stuck
and
in
why he's saying it.
What is he saying right now?
He says he comes from a time before the world lost its way, and gives no context of what he means by that, how the world has lost his way, how his way was better.
And how he's even been around now long enough to know what the differences are.
Well, because he just read everything through the TV.
Oh, is that what that whole thing was? That's right, okay.
He was seen Ronald Reagan in the Cold War.
So
I don't
had
get a
download
sense
dump. Yeah, okay.
of what his vision is, why he thinks the world is worse now than it was then, how he's going to fix it. None of that. He has no motivation. He has no... I don't understand where he's coming from, what he wants. Nothing. Other than, generically, I am evil and I am right. And I don't know what he's right about, but he's right. And now her hair is white, even though all of the other people he augments will not have white hair.
So you notice we intentionally timed that with Apollo in that TOS episode saying there is no time for... or the time for gods has passed.
There's him.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Cabal. Not Cabal. Caliban.
Caliban, yeah.
There's Caliban.
Who's in Logan.
You want to try and make that timeline work?
Nope.
Really? Not at all?
Nope. Not right now, anyway. And he doesn't really talk like this when you get to Logan either, does he?
No.
But maybe he just stopped being creepy. I mean, I like the idea that he's changed that much in 50-something years.
He hasn't aged at all.
Yeah, he has. Oh, he looks a lot older than that in Logan.
A lot older?
Yes, yes.
Maybe 10, 15.
Nope, I disagree with that.
Okay.
And some of it's the makeup job, but and some of it is
it's two different
ambiguous age. No, I know, but the makeup on that character is significantly different in Logan. I think they're trying to make him look like he could be like 50, 60 in that.
Okay.
And if you cake up mutants in enough makeup, there's always question as to whether or not they age the same way as regular humans do.
That's true.
And even if you don't have healing factor, I feel like some mutants kind of age differently. Or they get away with looking younger just because of their skin color, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's much harder to tell what Nightcrawler's age is.
That was their introduction
because
to Psylocke.
You're not going to see... Oh, yeah.
Who's in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And is set up as a villain at the end. And I assume we will just ignore that and not follow up on that. But she gets away at the end, almost like a cartoon saying, I'll be back again.
You'll never...
That's kind of funny.
Would it be fair to say that the pacing feels a little off?
It's real off. What is the first act plot point? Is it Apocalypse getting woken up? Because that hasn't affected anybody in the main cast.
Well, that can't be your first act plot point, because that happens... That's more prologue material, really.
I feel like we already have a couple of stuff by the time he gets woke. Like, that's not the next scene. That's not like the opening scene after the credits.
No, it's not. But you're just all you're doing before that is introducing people. You haven't built to a first act plot point.
But how far into this movie are we? Like, I still don't feel like we've hit that yet.
No, it certainly doesn't feel like it. We're already 49 minutes in,
and I don't think we've hit the first act plot point.
It sure doesn't feel like it. Maybe it's one of those movies that ends up feeling like it's more like it's in 2 acts, kind of.
Sure. It's this...
Yeah, maybe it is his being woken up. I think actually you're right about that.
But it's this...
So I guess your whole second act is just his collecting the horsemen?
Which is the darkest part of this
But
movie.
you could... I guess you can also say that you've got... Because you have subplots that haven't converged yet, you have multiple first act plot points. So Magneto going dark again,
Scott
He's
going
one of them.
to the school.
I guess, yeah. But no, but again, that's changing status quo. That's I mean, that's breaking status quo before it's a plot point, really.
See, we're trying to do all this. We're trying to do the new cast, and we're also trying to develop the Horsemen. There are so many characters in this we are trying to give time to.
Yeah, again, it's so weird because Days of Future Past had twice as many.
But it also
had a juggle.
But it also understood like a ranking. Like none of the people in the future matter.
Right. And you don't have a sense yet really as to who your real protagonists are.
I don't by the end of the movie.
Yeah.
I think it might be Jean Grey, but she's not in this movie enough for it to be her.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel like it's going to. No, it's certainly Mystique.
Yeah.
Beyond that, it's probably disputable at best.
And this could have been, and should have been in some ways, if you view this as a trilogy. If you actually waited to introduce Scott and Jean and all of them until a fourth film, if you treated this as the actual third part of a trilogy,
I do like that line where he says that Apocalypse doesn't look like his father. I think that's kind of funny. And he doesn't talk about himself in the third person in Logan either, I don't think. Sorry.
But if you treat this as the third part of the trilogy, this should be Mystique's movie.
Yeah.
The first movie is Magneto's, the second movie is Xavier's, the third movie is hers.
And that's been your triad. And
that is what they should have done, and that's why you put her in whatever she's doing at the end of Days of Future Past. She's got something to go through.
And each of those, all three of those characters have character arcs, but one of them is more upfront than the other two. Mystique's character arc in Days of Future Past can't happen without the choices that Xavier has, without his opportunity for change. So there's still a choice she has to make too, but that can't happen unless he allows her to make it. And so it's his movie before it's hers.
This is a weird thing. So Apocalypse can, like, awaken within you greater power, right? Like, he can, like, advance your powers.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
I don't know what he gives her. Like, she doesn't seem to have any more or less energy.
I don't know about that with anybody, though. Like, what does he give to Storm?
I don't know.
Any different than her normal Storm powers.
I get the impression that before that she couldn't, like, do all the Storm
There's
stuff
Jubilee.
she does.
Blink and you'll miss her, but there she is.
And she's in the lead scene that everyone says should have been in this movie. Where
Which
they
I
go to
haven't
the
seen.
mall. I haven't either. It's on DVD.
But we heard about her in the mix of the rest of this cast real early and assumed that she was going to be a character.
Which is so weird because she's a 90s character.
Yep.
And them being so young is going to be weird if the next movie is in 93.
Yeah, but they haven't been worried about that before, so...
No. But they're so much younger than the previous cast. Like, it doesn't bother me as much into Days of Future Past.
First class Days of Future Past, yeah.
It's more glaring here. Yeah,
because it's not this, but it's practically puberty into adulthood. It's almost like that.
But I get the impression...
This is a little bit of a throwback to X2 when Nightcrawler is up in the rafters of the church, except that it's obviously a totally different setting, and he's kind of the opposite of Nightcrawler right now.
I get the impression that he maybe let Storm go full Storm. Like, before that she's doing, like, little, like, dust storms and stuff. Maybe he unleashes, like, the full Storm powers. He'll give him metal wings that can shoot darts. He gives Magneto nothing.
Yeah.
He's just like, well, did you ever think about metal in the ground? He's not yelling this whole movie, so I retract that. That all he does is yell. He has not yelled yet.
Yeah, I never knew what you were talking about with that. It's probably like a lot of things where there's just a couple of things that stick with you, so it feels like it does it the whole time. Mm-hmm. We all have those.
Can I talk about Psylocke's costume?
Yeah.
It's nonsense and makes no sense.
That it's the costume that he gives her?
Yes. Yep. Okay, so it's the comic book costume, and I appreciate that, and of course she looks great in it.
Yeah.
But he gives everyone else a specific aesthetic, And it's all made out of a similar material. It all looks of a piece. The Magneto suit, the Angel suit, and the Storm suit.
There is nothing whatsoever remotely Egyptian about what he does to Psylocke.
Well, there's not really about what he does to them either, but at least Storm...
More so.
At least Storm, Angel, and Magneto, their costumes look of a piece. They look like they're on a team. Psylocke's is just the comic book costume, and I get why we did it, but oh boy was it a mistake, because it just kind of makes Apocalypse feel pervy. Oh, you're pretty. I'm gonna put you in a sexy outfit. The rest of you, you're gonna be in armor. You're going into battle. You need to be ready for it.
Yeah. And that was just because the actress really wanted to wear it.
Well, no. Apparently, the design was black. All she did was make them make it purple. I guess it was going to be the same costume. I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's what I heard her say in the interview.
I didn't know
was that it was going to be black, and she was like, "Well, it's purple in the comics. We should make it purple."
See, it's been a while, and so there's no credence to this at all. But I thought what I had heard was that she didn't even want to be in the movie if she couldn't wear that costume.
Oh, okay.
But
that's not what
But
I
I don't know if there's.
Well, and what's weird is that costume is even more revealing than the comic book costume. There's no boob hole in the comic book Mystique costume or Psylocke costume.
Somebody just really liked the TNG chick Klingon costumes, I guess.
Or Power Girl.
Yeah. Somebody was just a big Larsa and Bator fan.
Yeah, it's weird because it's even less practical than it was in the comics. Not that the comics is practical, but you could build something around the aesthetic design of
everything else with the Horseman is armored.
Yeah. And
I mean, like, Angel's going around without a shirt, or does he keep doing that?
No, he gets armor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, then she should be armored.
Yeah.
And then just have her walk in with that costume and leave at the end with it.
Yeah,
right?
Have her be wearing that at the bar instead of the suit she's wearing.
Yeah. Like, it's real comic book costumey, but...
And I appreciate that, but in the context, it doesn't make sense.
But I'm just saying, like, it's real comic book costumey, but it might be, like, for her, in her mind, her uniform for the job she does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, kind of like Elektra.
Yeah, exactly like Elektra. And her costume is basically Elektra's costume in the comics. It's just purple.
I can't believe we're already an hour into this.
Yep. Also,
it's taken too long to get going, you know? Like, Apocalypse pulling the Horsemen together, like, number 4 ought to be your first act plot point, I think. Like, and then we get things rolling. You know, everybody compared him visually to Ivan Ooze, but what he does is a little similar.
I hated that. I got so tired of that.
No, I know.
It's clearly the lighting. He's not purple, he's blue.
I know, but because I got Power Rangers on the brain, because we've been dealing with that movie lately, I was actually, not even because of that, I was actually reminded a little bit of Ivan Ooze because his whole thing is just, I need to bring people together to unearth something for me. And that's not real far and away from what happens in this. I just mean, most of this movie is him just, like, collecting people. And those kinds of villain plots, it always feels like we're just wasting time.
And that's what I feel like. I feel like we're wasting so much time here.
Are his choices, because we're talking through this, and again, I don't know this movie very well, are Apocalypse choices of the Horseman kind of arbitrary?
It seems.
Why does he pull who he pulls?
I think it's completely arbitrary. He meets Storm. I don't know why he picks Angel. Psylocke is also just there. And so he picks her too.
How does he even know where Magneto is? What makes him think to go there?
Well, he saw Magneto on the TV.
But how does he know where he is?
That I don't know.
He's in hiding.
I don't know. I don't know if that's supposed to be scary or funny. Also, I'm not sure about this thing with the mouth, because all of the early shots we saw of him did not have the mouth thing,
right.
And people complained up and down. And there was a comic book, or not there was a convention cosplay that people were holding up. Were like, this looks exactly like the comic. Why don't you do it like this? And then when we get to the movie, he has these mouth things. If they either went back and reshot all the scenes with a new prosthetic, or it's entirely CGI and I can't tell, which is impressive if that's what it is.
Yeah, but that is the kind of thing you can do in post these days, and it doesn't seem to be. It seems to be one of the easier things to do.
And I appreciate how much of his costume is a costume.
Yeah, but it's still not right off the page, right? Because Apocalypse's mouth goes back that far. Like, the idea is when he opens his mouth, it goes back that far.
I don't think so. I think it just has blue lines.
I'm gonna look up a picture, because...
I'm pretty sure his mouth is a normal mouth, he just has blue lines that go up.
Is it? Okay.
That's how I always viewed it, but I hadn't read a lot of comics with Apocalypse in it.
It still doesn't look quite... I mean, I appreciate that they're there.
It doesn't look as good as it could have.
No, it just looked like something was missing without it. Obviously, I don't have to have that.
This scene is so weird.
We got to bookend it.
Yeah, and this scene is so weird. We go to Auschwitz, or is it Auschwitz? It's a German prison camp, or it's a Nazi German.
I think so. They actually just gave us the name of it.
Okay,
and I think it's the main obvious one everybody would go to.
It's weird that she's there in like a swimsuit at a German prison camp. That seems a little inappropriate.
It's a real good point you're making.
He is not going to... Nothing he says feels like it's convincing to Magneto. Like, I don't...
No, and it feels like they're pretty much mind-controlled throughout this, which means nothing he says to him really matters. Like, this all ends up being kind of wasted time.
How come I never heard of you? I'm real big on history.
Unless I'm wrong about that. Unless they're not mind-controlled.
I don't think they are.
And it is completely of their own accord.
See, the thing is, I don't think it feels like they're mind-controlled until the end, where I want to say there's something where someone, like, snaps out of it. I think it's Storm. I want to say it feels like Storm was mind-controlled, but I'm not sure. And this is so weird. This is his upgrade is... There's metal down there.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the deal. It doesn't open back here, but Apocalypse just has such a bigger mouth than normal people have, and that's more pronounced. Then it feels like it's more part of his mouth as opposed to just being lines.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, again, it's not important. If I really wanted to complain that it wasn't faithful enough to the comics, I could say he should have a giant A on his belt.
And big gauntlets and wires that... I don't know why those wires are there on Apocalypse.
Yeah, but if we don't... If when we finally get to Sinister, we don't do the big, like...
Oh, I will not be okay.
I'll be real sad. We have to have
He has to look like Insane Dracula.
You have to wonder where the rest of his cape went. That's...
Okay, so that's in the trailer.
Yeah.
And it seemed real epic and really cool.
Mm-hmm.
There is no build-up. And I don't understand why Magneto agrees or is like, yeah, let's burn it all down and we'll build something. He doesn't ever explain himself.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, superficially, it's just this society is bad and has ruined my family twice.
Yeah.
And we're intercutting it with flashbacks of his parents getting killed.
Oh, I forgot he was in this movie.
But that was a real... I mean, I even with what happened with Shaw, I gotta be careful, because even with what happened with Shaw, I still appreciate and understand why Magneto is anti-human beings and we're better than them and all of that. But still, it's weird to intercut with what Shaw did to his family, because I don't feel like it's... Is it really anything like the same situation as what just happened to his new family? Especially since one of them got killed by as an accident, and they're kind of understandably afraid of him because he was a terrorist. It's not anti-mutant, is it? Before it's just, you are really scary.
Yeah.
Like, you yourself individually.
Yeah, it's not about him being a mutant, it's that you are criminal number one.
Yeah, everybody's after you.
Yeah.
We're afraid of you.
Yeah.
And instead of contriving it so that, see, he already knows that that's who his dad is. If we're trying to contrive it so that it looks to Magneto for a second or whatever, like his daughter gets shot because she's a mutant. Why contrive it? Why not find an actual real reason that is what happens? Instead of it being an accident with an arrow.
Yeah, how about it's not him that they come after? How about she uses her power at school or something, and they come after her?
Yeah.
And don't even know it's him.
Yeah, and then he's upset because we've made no progress, and then what Apocalypse says to him maybe makes a little bit more sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I have a whole thing with this.
Yeah, I knew you'd want to talk about that.
Okay, it's not just that this is the third one and
well,
it's
and
bad.
you go ahead, because we did 10 minutes on that in the spoiler cast.
Okay, it's not just that this is the third one and it is bad.
I was annoyed because we were on a track and then that scene had to play while we were talking.
I'm sorry.
But no, you're fine. Go ahead.
But it feels like he's still not over it. Bryan Singer himself is still not over 3.
Which is probably why he was excited to make this movie, because it's the third one.
Yeah. I really get the impression that scene drives it home. He's still sore about X-Men 3. We've all forgotten, moved on, and forgiven. He hasn't. He's still on about it.
And you can somewhat understand that because he hasn't had much of a career since then. So you can see how he would be more stuck in the past, and it wouldn't feel to him like any time's passed.
Yeah. But he got to make a good X-Men movie 2 years prior.
Yeah, and more than that, in a lot of ways, I think you could argue that Days of Future Past is kind of like a better X-Men 3.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's not the third for this trilogy, because he got to go back to that cast and give them a proper send-off. He's already done his bit with that. Move on.
Yeah.
However, if I liked this movie more, that scene's really funny because it watches more like he's not talking about X-Men 3, but that this is the third in this trilogy, and he doesn't think he can top himself. Or he's acknowledging that he's doing the best he can, but he doesn't think he can do better than Days of Future Past. Which, as a creator, you should. This is something I got from Jason Aaron, and I think he's so right about it. When I interviewed Jason Aaron once, I asked him what he thought his best work was, and he said, "Well, I don't like to throw that out and think in those terms because you never want to feel like your best work is behind you." Mm-hmm. So you hope that Singer's not thinking that way. And so then the problem ends up being, does that scene maybe watch a little bit like he's afraid that this movie isn't turning out, or that people just aren't going to accept it as well as Days of Future Past because that was his big return, it was a big event, we had all those actors back and stuff, and so that's maybe a way to, like, throw the audience a bone. Yeah, I get it. You're not going to like this as much. You know, like, almost retroactive, or almost like front-loading damage control. You know what I mean?
Well, and here's I just
like,
thought
if we're
of this.
self-aware of it, maybe it's okay that it's not as good.
I just thought of this. It's even more problematic because that is part of a larger sequence at the mall that we mentioned earlier. We made sure that one part of it was in the theatrical final cut.
Yeah.
You had to know that he was saying third movies are bad.
Yeah.
I really wish it felt like it almost feels.
I'm of 2 or 3 minds about that joke, but
because it almost. I think you can read it a couple of ways. One is that he's not over X-Men 3, which
I also think you
is,
can read it a couple ways simultaneously.
Yeah,
I don't think one necessarily trumps the other.
But you can also read it as, like, throwing your hands up and being like, look, it's not good, but the third movie's never good.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Or he thought it was good, and he threw that in because he was making a good third movie. Which is unfortunate if that's the case.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's also not a third movie, it's a 6th movie.
Yeah.
We don't really have a stigma about 6 movies.
Yeah, I mean, it is and it isn't, you know.
Yeah.
And it would be disingenuous to say that he's not trying to cap off a trilogy at, as we said earlier, the same time as he's trying to start a new one. Because he's doing too much callback and parallel, especially with Magneto, with what's in First Class.
Mm-hmm. But before we got into all that, we were talking about Apocalypse and Magneto and that whole thing. I think the biggest problem with Apocalypse... Okay, I think you're right that I can kind of see what they think they're doing with Magneto. The problem is Apocalypse never presents a vision. He just keeps saying, "It's bad! I'm gonna take it away and make it good!" I don't know what...
That sounds like something. I can't put my finger on it.
I don't know what his good looks like.
Yeah.
And neither do any of these people. Why do they believe in him? What is it that makes Magneto go, "Yeah, I believe in your vision"?
That's
I'm not
on
seeing
first viewing, I assumed there must be some mind control involved. Especially because everybody... Here's the thing. It feels like everybody else is taken in by him because he has power over them, and Magneto's an important character, so he's not going to be played that way.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, one of the things this has in common with X3, as you were suggesting earlier, is that Magneto ends up being the Phoenix at the end, weirdly. Where he's the big, powerful creature that's floating around, destroying things until the bad guy tells him what to do with himself.
And this seems...
That can't be controlled.
This scene's weird. Because they're just standing in a room, and, like, Magneto's off to the corner, like, muttering to himself. And they're just standing there. They're not having a conversation.
And they're going to keep
standing
doing that
there
the rest of the movie.
And then, like, he turns around and he's like, "Wait, is he talking to himself? This is our ominous looming session. We'll have to do it again later."
I got irrationally excited with the trailer when Xavier says, "I've never felt power like this before," because I was hoping it wouldn't just be him reading Apocalypse the way it ends up being. I thought that might have been a setup for something bigger with him.
That, like, you could sense him no matter, like, where you go in the world. Like, he's emanating. But he goes inside his mind. He's like, his power level is so high. Maybe
Apocalypse does something to Xavier that gets him closer to Onslaught or something. Like, that's where I thought we were going with that. Because that line delivery out of context...
like, feeding him power.
Yeah, that line delivery out of context feels real ominous and makes you scared of Xavier. And I don't know. I'm not saying, as always, that it's not good because it's not what I wanted, but I feel like those trailers kept throwing me things that are really interesting out of context, and then in context they turn into kind of nothing.
This is that angry baby thing I was talking about.
McAvoy is my favorite thing in these movies, and he is nothing in this.
Okay,
Xavier's kind of nothing in this.
So I know this is a problem in the comics, but you know what? You're making a movie, and you're making a movie that you think is smart,
or he gets out of character toward the end. We'll talk about it.
What are Apocalypse's powers?
I do like that we got Jill Lee in there.
Oh, yeah!
Yeah, that's so cool.
Because he has...
And like him, she looks amazing for her age.
Yeah. If I'm reading what happens correctly, he can go into Magneto's mind and leap from there into Xavier's mind, and leap from Xavier's mind into anyone's mind using Cerebro. How can he do that? His power is remaking matter. He's like Molecule Man. Why can he do this? Why can he create energy fields? I don't understand what his abilities are. And if that was
watching
the
this
point,
movie, I thought he was just kind of generically all powerful. Like, I didn't even know what his power set was.
Well, and if that was the point, there needs to be conversations about, like, he's not like us. He has more that, like, he can do anything.
Recap.
And this scene was so much more dramatic in the trailer.
Yeah.
He's making a lot of biblical references, which is weird, because he predates the existence of the Bible. Like,
right,
he wouldn't have read it.
But he doesn't predate some of those important events. He would have been around for some of that. And there would have been sacred texts that wound up in the Bible that were around then.
But I don't feel like he's reading those.
I don't know. Again, I don't know what his power set is. Well, you know what?
It feels like it feels like the writer doesn't have any other.
But download dumb.
Yeah, but it's television. He's not getting everything. He doesn't know everything.
Is it just television?
Yeah, he just flips to the TV. And he watches, like, a bunch of different, like, news broadcasts and things.
See, the problem is it's the 80s and he can't go to the internet.
Yeah.
And if he gets the Bible, it's going to be like a real, like watered down version that he got from like PBS or something.
Yeah, no, it feels like the writer doesn't have any other way to contextualize this, because he also does the slings and arrows thing, which is Shakespeare, which also, well, I think it's slings and swords.
Which is like obviously a lot, way after him, way after his day.
Just not enough.
That's the 1500s.
Just not enough thought was put into.
Yeah, if I was having him get all of his information from TV, I would have it be unreliable, and I would have him be really ignorant.
I would love if there was some kind of commentary, because when he watches it, it's just all of this like different news, and I wish there was some kind of commentary about, like, he thinks the world is worse than it is, because all he's seeing is how awful everything is on the news. He is almost seeing the world through the media lens. That would have been something interesting to do. This scene is awful.
Yeah, I really didn't like that we did this again. And that it's so big.
And it's so long.
Yeah,
and then someone dies.
This isn't a situation where you want to pause for this kind of comedy, I don't think.
No, especially because someone dies.
And it also doesn't work because, at least just for me, because I'm not invested in the way I was in Days of Future Past.
Mm-hmm.
And we balanced the drama and levity so well.
It feels like we're wasting time here.
And it feels obligatory. It feels like he's here, so we have to do this.
Yep.
And it also kind of, because
and this song
we would have
had
to have been doing, we would have had to have been doing this, or at least written that this is in here probably, unless we added it after that. Before we knew how well this was going to play with Days of Future Past, I would have thought. So it's weird because it watches a little bit like what you would do with this years after everyone loved this scene in Days of Future Past.
Mm-hmm. No, I think they probably had a sense of the reception to the scene in Days of Future Past when they did this. You know, it's probably not in the first draft of this script.
Yeah. That's the only way that works. Yeah, the only thing I really remember about this is the hammock thing.
And this doesn't look as good. This all looks really CGI.
Yeah. It's weirdly too ambitious. Yeah, it feels almost like a parody of what we did before.
Yeah. Yeah, like this almost feels like an SNL skit, like, you loved this scene, now see this scene.
For 2 hours! It's the whole movie!
And it starts to feel like that. Like, this goes on so long, and then the fact that Alex dies in this scene, we don't know what we're doing tonally.
And I also don't buy that he would actually be able to time all of that this time.
Yeah. It's too big. Pizza dog.
Yeah, and it just feels like you're relying too much on what has worked before. Like I was saying, I guess.
It really feels like we should have gotten rid of everybody, right? Like, we should have gotten rid of Kinberg. Obviously, we should have gotten rid of Kinberg. But we should have gotten rid of Singer. This should have been the first movie of the new creative force behind X-Men. Although Singer thought he would have been the new...
But you're saying that retroactively.
I am saying that retroactively.
You wouldn't have said that after Days of Future Past.
I wouldn't have said that after Days of Future Past.
You would have said, yay, Singer. And way back when, we were excited to see Singer come back when we thought he was going to do First Class.
Yep.
When he was originally supposed to direct that.
Yep.
And now it feels almost weird when she's in the makeup, right?
Because she's never in it
so little.
Also, wow, that's awesome. Screw you. Everyone there has powers. You've seen crazy things every day.
I don't know what point you're making right now.
Everyone there goes... I don't know.
No, I know. I don't know.
We had to stop and say how cool Mystique is because she form changes.
That's not what that is. That's she was the hero.
Okay, so it's more of my other.
Yeah,
point.
It's that, but it's that thing. It's not because she shapeshifted.
Okay. Okay, well, there no reaction to Mystique in that situation is okay.
They're all starstruck. I'm not saying it works. I'm saying that's I didn't understand what you were responding to because that's what the context of that scene is.
Why do we have to have a gag scene? Why? Well, my brother was dying.
Oh, and by the way, Nightcrawler's in this movie.
But in the Munich circus, they call him the Incredible Nightcrawler.
I would have made him one of the Horsemen.
Yeah, that's kind of obvious.
Because that would be, again, maybe a more clever callback to X2, where once again, he's introduced as being mind controlled by the bad guy.
Well, Apocalypse
and I'm not
he's
saying
a god,
I don't want
he
to
calls himself a god, and there's that connection.
Nightcrawler, well, and because Nightcrawler was in this, I expected us to do something with him and in religion, obviously.
And this is insane.
And maybe make him question his beliefs and stuff. Yeah, that would be. That seemed like the obvious thing to do with that. Now, I'm not saying, obviously, that I don't want to see Nightcrawler become his own character and get to really know him and stuff. I'm not saying, oh, it's cool because he was mind-controlled last time. But he started as kind of a tragic character that was, able to get redeemed and real optimistic in X2. And since we have to reintroduce him, I don't think it's bad to go back to that place.
This scene comes out of nowhere.
And Ottman's doing that music cue again, because we have to keep going back to X2, and because that Strikers, so we got the na. That's his theme.
What other movie just halfway through do we just drop something like this? Like even Marvel movies, like it's not like you get like halfway through like Thor 2 and it's like, and now Hydra showed up.
Yeah. Yeah, and it feels like we have this major plot point that's contrived just to do
a Wolverine cameo.
A Wolverine cameo.
It doesn't serve the story in any way.
Mm. You ran those lines together real fast there. I'm telling you, nothing against anybody, because I know a lot of people really like her performance. She's not impressing me.
I remember liking her. I didn't really read on her this viewing, but I remember liking her. I wasn't in love with her. I didn't think she was.
Don't worry,
amazing.
we won't be seen. Trust me. Like, you ran those lines together that fast? Okay.
But why? Wait, no. Why?
Yeah, that's a good point.
This movie sucks. How come we only took them? Why didn't we take them?
I'll admit, this feels rougher than the last time I saw it. And I was real disappointed with this movie, don't get me wrong. We both said this comes out 10 years ago and it's great.
Yeah. If this was X3, it wouldn't be as good as X2, but it would have felt alright. It's better than those Fantastic Four movies Fox is putting out. It's better than... I'm trying to think of other super movies coming around then. It's not better than the Sam Raimi Spider-Man's, but... Maybe 3. I think part of the problem with this.
But remember, third movies are always bad.
Part of the problem with this is, I don't even have the things I have with a lot of these bad movies that we've watched, where I'm like, there are good ideas here I can really latch into.
Well, you said there's some, and there are.
Kind of. I get glimpses of things that maybe in a completely different movie. Like,
how do we
this
not
movie
make
needs to be completely rewritten.
How do we not make the whole thing about spirituality?
I have no idea.
That should be the theme of your film.
Yeah.
And I'm not rewriting
especially
it. Especially
when you have
like
Nightcrawler
it is.
There. But like, there's so much little like. There's so much in this movie. It's like, well, if we focus more on the kids, or we focus more on the main cast, or we did.
And he is praying.
I have any idea what
we haven't forgotten that.
He's what?
He is praying. We haven't forgotten that.
Yeah. I don't think it comes up when he comes into conflict with Apocalypse. Why are we doing this?
And now, the fourth time we've been to Alkali Lake in these films.
Was anyone excited when this started happening in the theater? Wait, we're doing what? And why wouldn't they take Xavier? Why? I don't understand why anyone is doing anything.
And wasn't anyone in the theater going, hey, wait a minute, how did Stryker get Wolverine from mystique.
Okay.
Because the thing is, you could almost get away with some of this stuff if you just never mention it. Because it could just be a secret.
Well,
But, oh no, I mean, I would still have issues with it.
There needs to be looks between those characters to indicate that something has passed between them, and also, you're telling us at the end of the movie things will be different, and then you gave us
So they're all just going to keep posing for production photos. That's like...
Okay, so there is a thing that I know...
How is this not where we shot all the production photos? Because you wouldn't even have to have a special, like, day or setting for that. You just have someone with a still camera, because they're just... All they're doing all day is standing here.
So there is a thing here, Yep, you keep saying better world. Tell me what it means. What are you talking about? So, Psylocke is almost like an 11th hour addition to this film.
Yeah.
The original idea was, it's almost kind of a twist, and Xavier is the fourth horseman. And
well,
they didn't think people would accept that.
That's what they should have done.
And they didn't think people would accept that, and so they threw Psylocke in.
But again, I don't know how you convince him, which means it has to be mind control.
No, yeah, the way I understand it is everything that you are seeing. This is him being the fourth horseman.
What?
Yeah. But they didn't think people would get that that's what they were doing.
Okay.
And would keep going, where's the fourth horseman? So they threw in Psylocke.
I would have been really impressed if you could convince me that he would go there.
Well, it wasn't going to be that he was becoming a horseman actually.
It was
just the idea of like, well, he's kind of the fourth one. Even though he's being forced to do what he's doing.
Okay.
Like, that was the idea.
He wasn't going to go through with it.
Yeah, he wouldn't actually have been a Horseman of Apocalypse, but it was thematically, like, that was the idea, was he was the fourth horseman.
Sure, do that.
Well, they think
right?
they did. This is what that is.
But you said Psylocke was an 11th hour edition, which made me
because they didn't think
okay.
that people would understand that that's what they were doing, so they threw in a fourth horseman, but that is supposed to be the idea. That is supposed to be what you're getting from this. But they just throw Psylocke in because they didn't think people would get it and would keep asking where the fourth horseman is.
So he's really just putting together a Power Rangers team then?
Yeah.
Okay.
What are we doing in these scenes? What do they have to do with the rest of the movie? Yeah, your makeup looks bad.
It's real intrusive.
It's embarrassing how intrusive this is and how unnecessary. And it has nothing to do with Apocalypse.
With the ideas of this film. It's still just your standard generic X-Men stuff. And we've been here and done all this.
Calling back to X2.
Yep.
This is supposed to be their moment to shine, but their moment to shine needs to have something to do with the plot of the movie.
Which ends up feeling a lot more generic because you don't have those characters now. Like, it worked in Days of Future Past because we were following up with those people and then passing the torch to questions.
Mm-hmm.
I am not a mailman.
Also, I don't know if you've noticed, but my legs don't work.
Oh, and he has this whole, like, anti-technology thing.
Yeah, I don't know what that's about. He says, you're gonna take away your arrows, your swords, your weapons, your systems.
Uh-huh.
What does any of that mean? First of all, arrows, swords, weapons. Then you can cut 2 of those out.
Uh-huh.
Systems. What systems? Systems of government? Systems of computers? Systems of
I assume
video games?
Generically, yeah. Yeah, I assume just generically he's gonna shut down society. See, this is all of the pointless, kind of meaningless, mostly meaningless villain posturing that a lot of people thought Ultron was.
Mm-hmm.
Where Ultron was actually saying things.
Yeah. This is exactly what people thought Ultron was. Not late. He hadn't been to the house. He hadn't been to the house. You weren't late for anything.
I still love Quicksilver. I mean, I still love that actor.
Yeah, me too. Yet this is how he is the Fourth Horseman.
Oh.
And because he's the one that he's going to go into, but that doesn't make sense because the person he was going into before wasn't one of the Four Horsemen. But this is what they were saying in an interview.
Oh, okay. So honestly, what they did is still kind of okay as far as the number goes.
Yeah, it's just they were like,
okay.
We thought that we were doing this clever thing. We didn't think anybody would get it, so we just threw an extra horseman in.
They're probably right, honestly.
You know, we would not have.
We would not have gotten that.
We would have been like,
but
why are there only 3 horsemen?
Okay.
The 4 horsemen. Yeah, no, that's the idea.
Finding a way for Xavier to actually be a horseman could have been cool. Maybe, I don't know. Because you can make it really terrifying because before Apocalypse, he's the most powerful person on the planet, arguably.
We're shooting this weird.
Yeah, I remember thinking that in the theater. So why'd you say all the rest of it then? Why not just open with that?
Yeah.
Because anything Apocalypse is going to do to you now, because you did that.
We don't know, bro!
You would have known at the beginning. You said one sentence, and I think by doing it at the end, you just confuse everybody because it's in Apocalypse's voice to people's heads, right? Or no, it's in his voice, but nobody knows that. So it's just gonna sound like oh, we're powerful mutants are taking over the world, and then this one like altruistic message at the end that doesn't go with any of the rest of it. It's just gonna confuse everyone. A lot of theatricality.
He's wearing the Michael Jackson jacket.
Itself. Yeah.
Is Michael Jackson wearing that by '83?
Yeah.
I thought that was a more mid-'80s kind of thing. He should have one glove.
No, that's the Beat It era. By 87, 88, we were into the bad era.
Oh man, I get to complain about a thing aesthetically that only bothers me, which is his visor. No one else seems to be bothered by this. I think his visor looks so dumb because it doesn't have a visor. This is exactly the headpiece from Weapon X, except it doesn't have this visor.
Oh, you're talking about
with Wolverine. Except it doesn't have this visor thing. Without the visor thing, it looks like they just put stuff on his head. Looks like there's no practical function.
And the only reason you took it
dumb.
off is so we could tell that it's Hugh Jackman.
Yep, it's so dumb. Just put the visor on, it would look cool.
Yeah, and if you have to have FaceTime for him, have somebody punch it off or something.
Yeah.
Which is usually what we tend to do.
Yeah.
I mean, you complain because they punched it off, I'm sure.
Well,
like you did with the lizard coat.
And like, are we? Because it's exactly
Why
that
does he
image
have that
without the visor.
Yeah.
And that would have been really cool if he looked exactly like that comic. That would have been cool.
And yeah, yay, we finally got to see that again, minus the visor. But
why in this
shoving
movie?
This in? And I didn't want to see that out of context. I wanted to see Weapon X.
Yeah.
Like, don't do it at all if you're not going to really give it to us, I don't think.
And
is there a situation where you could have made that a cameo somewhere with that? Maybe. I don't know. But
I thought... I mean, we
made a whole subplot out of it. It's really weird.
We proved with Days of Future Past you didn't need Wolverine to sell an X-Men movie. Or not, I keep saying Days of Future Past. With First Class.
First Class.
And Days of Future Past had Wolverine in it, but I don't feel like that movie was sold on him in the way the first three were.
No, certainly not.
We didn't need him in this movie. In fact...
No, that was set up... That was sold on... You get to see Xavier and Magneto in different time periods with both of those actors playing. The posters were all the split down the middle thing.
In fact, you can almost view it as him being the representative of the previous X-Men franchise, dealing with the new X-Men franchise.
Yeah.
He shouldn't be in this movie. It's a mistake.
And remember, he's the voice for future Xavier. He doesn't have a character arc. He doesn't change in that movie.
I don't know why they wanted him here.
Especially because this is post the Wolverine, and we know Logan is being made, before we know what that's called, but we're already getting, finally, real Wolverine movies.
Mm-hmm.
They already understand that character and are giving him the films Hugh Jackman has always wanted to make. So this was unnecessary. Maybe it's even Singer trying to...
Is it him trying to redo the stuff from X2?
Fix Origins. Where he's like, I know people didn't like X3, I know people didn't like Origins, if only I had been involved. So he does X3 and Origins in this movie. Is that what it is? Because superficially, that look was enough for some people.
I know it was, and I don't get it.
I don't either.
It doesn't excuse 20 useless minutes in this movie.
No, that moment of fan service is not worth that.
And they didn't even go all the way. This is totally not going to be creepy in 20 years when you hit on me.
Yeah, this whole thing is really weird because she hears her future self, and I don't understand that.
And I don't need...
Or was it her future self? I can't remember.
And I don't need...
I remember thinking that was Femke Janssen's voice, and we're talking over it, but, like, how does that make any kind of sense?
I don't know.
Because this isn't that version of him? That's not still in his brain?
And I mean, this is a thing that we keep doing in the comics. Well, I mean, Wolverine's dead now. We're not still doing it.
Yeah.
But, like, where we have to keep going back... Ooh, his hair's even kind of big and poofy like Weapon X.
Yeah.
That's nice. This is one of those...
One.
Just running off in the distance, like, knocking bushes out. So I don't know, it's kind of funny to me.
Okay.
I like him just scampering off.
Yeah, but that's what happens in Weapon X.
Yeah, but it's not silly because it's panels. For some reason, just him being like, I'm out of here!
Yeah. Well, it is made a little bit more silly by him having this, like, moment of what looks like lucidity with Jean, and then he runs off, and I'm the animal again.
But the fact that we keep trying to connect X-Men stuff
Remember
to
these
Wolverine
names!
Before he met the X-Men, it's a thing we do in the comics. I don't like it. I don't need it. I don't need it here either.
Yeah.
He should not meet any of these people until he goes to the mansion.
And we did it in Origins already.
Yeah, we did in Origins already. It's fine in First Class.
And with Cyclops again.
Yep. And Days of Future Past is obviously okay because it's all time changey. But if Wolverine was just in that movie, I would have problems with it. Like if it was just 70s Wolverine meeting them, I would have issues with that.
That's not what happened there. That version wouldn't remember any of that.
Yeah. Are we going to rejoin the movie?
Well, like, I need...
Is this all here because they don't have a story to tell? Is that what this is?
I think so.
Because now they're going to go to the third act.
Yeah, here's the thing. I really expected and kind of needed Wolverine to have a very different, altered history with this. For a couple reasons. First of all, and I know, I guess I'm not supposed to give any credence to this anymore, but it was in the movie, and I loved it, and it was part of what made me invested and made me care, so I'm going to, Bryan Singer. I'm sorry, but I paid attention to your whole movie.
And your voiceover, your movie spoke to me and said the words, history is different. It's not written.
So the end of Days of Future Past, Wolverine mind snaps back to the future, and Xavier says, we have a lot of catching up to do. Apparently not for his history, because it's going to be exactly the same, or at least with Weapon X. And they leave you thinking Weapon X is going to be real different, that is connected from both the future and the past. So you can't just say that's a possible future. You told us that's going to be way different. Furthermore, and this is the biggest issue with it, this is your opportunity to recast it.
Yep. Yep. And well, and one of the weirdest things is...
It is preposterous that you would put Hugh Jackman in this movie.
It is.
Yes?
It is. Absolutely.
Because that's where you recast it.
Well, and it's so... Singer came out and made a big deal out of how that was a possible future, not the set future, and everyone's on the table in this movie. Anyone can die. No one dies!
Yeah.
Also...
But with the rules they set up, it doesn't make any sense that would just be a possible future until something in the past like alters that possibility. Like something else has to happen. We haven't gotten there yet. You can do that, but something else cosmic has to happen. Because you snap back. So you're breaking the rules of what you set up for the time travel with that movie. Anyways.
And these look awful. These are not costumes. We get it, Bryan Singer. You like black and think that's the only thing that looks realistic. The Marvel movies have happened. You need to move on.
Well, and I think that is him, again, kind of superficially, cosmetically trying to be consistent with his own world from before. So he's saying, we're going to introduce these, and then at the end, they're going to have something more comic book looking. That's what he's doing.
It's the 80s, man.
This
is the era that you could do costumes
the black
in.
Is just a weird period in the late 90s, early 2000s, and we did something different before, and we moved past it afterwards.
So we have this big sequence where, like...
Yes, you're the fourth horseman!
Where the entire city, like, pulled together and made the pyramid, right? This whole third act is them trying to compete with specifically Marvel, but, like, the scale superhero movies have escalated to.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to do that. These movies have never needed that. But feels
your villain
so...
is Apocalypse.
Yeah, but they don't do anything with him. So it feels like the villain is Apocalypse.
No, you can make an argument for that scale should be there, but he feels like so generic throwaway villain that it's not earned. It should be... You know that if Age of Ultron hadn't happened, this movie would have been called Age of Apocalypse, and that's the sense I get. And with that idea, I mean, that's a weird argument to make because that's not the title of the film, but what if you're going to use Apocalypse, you get to something that looks like an apocalypse that we have to, like, it shouldn't just be the character's name is Apocalypse and he's trying to create that. He doesn't even get close. It's not, like...
Okay, but here's the thing. In these movies, with the tone that these movies have done and what Bryan Singer has done...
Your first act plot point should be he's ruled the world already, we gotta take that away from him or something, right?
Well, but with these movies and the scale and tone of these movies, the epic conclusion to your movie could have been that you had hundreds of thousands of people following Apocalypse. and like something like that.
Yeah.
Like it can be more social. It can be more political.
Well,
it doesn't
absolutely.
have to literally be
He can take over in a different
city
way,
is
yeah.
destroyed.
No.
This really feels like they're trying to catch up.
Yeah. No, I can see that.
And it makes me think maybe they picked Apocalypse because they knew he was a big scale villain, and so they now we're gonna
make him Zod in Superman 2. Have him walk into the White House.
Yeah.
Especially
This is
because
nothing.
Especially because Singer loves the White House.
This is
So really, that would be a cool way to go once again back to X2.
Yeah.
Right? Is he does it, not politically, but he forces his way in and says, "I'm in charge now." And
Yeah.
start
Make the White House a pyramid.
This is the kind of movie where if you start thinking
And because
at all, you'll trump its creativity.
And because the only thing that this writer, Simon Kinberg, who's a hack and should be fired, the only thing this writer knows from the past
it needs
is...
Vaughn so bad.
It really needs
So
Vaughn.
bad.
The only thing this writer seems to know from the past is the Bible. You can even have it, this is my rock, and upon this I'll build my church, and then the White House becomes a big pyramid. You can even fit it into your bad writing. You know what he is, right?
He's dangerous. He's a little dangerous.
So I'm thinking
Are my
for
ears
the...
deceiving me, or did I hear the Shredder theme again?
I think yours is deceiving you.
Done!
I think it was just metal.
Done! Nah, no. I think in the score that was in there.
So I'm thinking
and,
for
and
the...
I love Ottman. He didn't give me a lot to work with his score. Unfortunately, it's not great.
I'm thinking for the third act of my screenplay, I'm just gonna write the words "crap flies around." Is that good enough?
Bridge again. I think, and I think the lackluster score speaks to the lackluster material. Like Ottman didn't have much to work with.
Yeah, this is all more meaningful and way cooler if people who worship Apocalypse built it for them.
Yeah.
We get it. You like yourself. You're gonna make things better.
I don't understand, with as powerful as he is, why he needs horsemen.
I mean, I think that's a question you could always ask with Apocalypse in the comics, but
Okay.
not having read a lot of comics with Apocalypse, I don't know for sure.
Yeah, but it seems like he has some kind of mind powers, but he needs Xavier. To your point from earlier, like how is there are just places where he seems to be able to do things that I don't think he's supposed to be able to do, but I'm not sure because I don't feel like we're given a clear enough sense of what he can do.
He can do whatever the script needs him to do.
Exactly, and
that's a problem that
so
character
that's
has in the
lazy writing
comics, but you're supposed to be smarter than that. You're supposed to be a
that doesn't
universal
make it
rule.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a place where it's too much like Lester's version of Superman 2, where suddenly the Kryptonians get whatever power they need in a scene. Oh, and, telekinesis beam!
I'm Jennifer Lawrence. You want me in that movie? I have to be in charge. I gotta be in charge! Everyone has to worship me.
Also has that in common with X3.
Because we talked over it, where we have a whole scene where the entire cast has to tell her how amazing she is and how much they look up to her. Oh boy. They're not talking to Mystique. They're being forced to speak to Jennifer Lawrence. And I don't like it.
And I don't feel like she's a leader yet. I mean, you could maybe get her there.
There's a missing movie.
Yeah.
Once again, the X-Men movie's ripe for prequel comics. We're jumping 10 years.
Yeah, or a cartoon miniseries on Cartoon Network that explains General Grievous. Oh, that's a different thing.
You're talking about the X-Men Sega game, X-Men Clone Wars?
Yes, yeah, that, right. That's why X-Men 2: The Clone Wars. Yes.
No one should be listening to you.
Okay,
You don't have enough life experience or understanding.
Is it okay if I complain about that whole line of dialogue? Because I forgot about that and how much I hate it.
I missed it, so feel free.
Okay, so he says, I don't know if we can control our powers. She says, then don't. Embrace them. Those are not two ideas that go together. Controlling your powers and embracing them.
No, what I mean is, my eyes
opposite.
might just make everything around me explode and no one will be safe. Not you, not the bad guys, no one.
Yeah. You still need to control them to embrace them.
I might accidentally make everyone around me, their brains just stop.
Yeah.
Because I can control people's minds.
Yeah. She's basically saying, nah, friendly fire's cool. No problem.
You know what hasn't been said?
That's only how the guy who raised me lost his legs.
You know what hasn't been seeded up to this point? And will not be seeded? The Phoenix.
Yep.
It'd be real weird if just all of a sudden the Phoenix showed up at the end of this movie, right? We spent a whole movie building the Phoenix last time. It'd be real weird if we just threw it at the end like we didn't think about our script.
It's weird how much of this is all just visual.
Yeah. Did she come out of lightning?
It sure looked like a Thor thing to me.
I was thinking like Raiden from Mortal Kombat.
Oh yeah, yeah. Honestly, in this movie, Storm looks like she could be a Mortal Kombat character.
She does, but that's not how Storm's power. She doesn't physically become lightning.
Psylocke could also be a Mortal Kombat character.
Although sometimes her clothes come from lightning. This was the one shot we got of her over and over in the movie or in the trailers.
Yeah.
It's the only shot she has in this movie where she like looks cool or is doing something.
Yeah. But again, costume looks really good, and I like her in that role.
Yeah, I think
visually.
Yeah, no, she looks great. I
love to think she can act. I don't know because I don't get to see her do that much, but and again, I feel that way even with a couple of the casting choices that I'm not totally with yet because I don't feel like I've gotten to see them do anything.
Yeah.
So I don't mean to be horribly harsh on, I don't know her name, but the actress playing Jean Grey. I'm not with it yet.
You know that X-Men movie that like people keep telling us they're making, but there's been no announcements about, like Supernova or whatever?
Yeah.
Do we know if Singer's directing it? Like, do we know anything about that movie other than the fact that people keep telling me they're making it?
And that it's codenamed Supernova?
Yeah, I don't know the writer, I don't know the director, I don't know anything about that movie other than like three people have now said they're
directing that, but I have no idea. I don't know.
Well, and then there was that whole interview that he did shortly after this, or right before this came out, where he basically said he feels trapped making X-Men movies.
Right.
Where he has a conversation with another director, and the other director says...
And he's developing a TV show now.
Yep. Which sounds really boring. Oh, there's somebody there. I remember I had the whole thing with this scene, but I don't remember what it is.
All of this is real Dr. Manhattan, yeah?
How do you know that? You haven't talked to me this entire movie. I haven't seen you in 10 years. Also 10 years.
This kid? Oh, and this whole thing. You remember this? He's not going to tell him. He's not going to know that's his kid, this movie. We're going to save that for 10 more years. One of the big problems with this 10-year model and moving forward... and
this all looks really bad right by our face, the CG.
Yeah, it does.
Sorry, 10-year model.
Moving forward and continuing to do that, especially... The big issue with it is the important things are only allowed to happen every decade. Nothing important ever happens in between.
Yep.
I cannot believe we did that.
Well, and I don't understand...
Couldn't that be his motive? Couldn't we make that part of Magneto's motivation for knocking this off? Because he thought he lost a kid, but he has another one he didn't know about, and he needs to be a responsible dad and stuff.
And it's also this thing of...
And I have something to live for.
Motivation.
I don't think I have anything to live for. That's why I'm okay tearing down the world.
We throw him under the bus so much because his entire motivation is, I'm sad. I lost my family. And she's like, but you have
it
family.
Reminds me of my horrible past when I lost my family before, and I gotta blame it on humans, even though it's hardly their fault.
But that's not but that's the problem. Is her whole speech is, you have more family.
Yeah.
Not, hey, maybe you shouldn't just murder everyone because you don't feel good right now. She doesn't talk about humans or accountability or any. It is, you have more family. If I was Magneto, I would just turn and be like, yeah, and you could die too, so I might as well preempt it.
And you and I argued about this with Xavier in First Class, and about whether or not it made sense that, we'll talk about that, whether or not it made sense. I hate it!
As a man that chose to shave his head, how does this make you feel? That everyone has to have an explanation for being bald.
Dude, it's okay. He got older! He's old enough to have male pattern baldness!
He's also could have just decided he likes how that looks. There are lots of people that do that.
Not this version, because he seems to like his hair too much with First Class. There's that whole thing with Moira at the end of that. But again, he's supposed to be in his 50s by now.
Yeah.
I mean, let's keep that in mind.
Yep.
He's an older guy.
Yeah.
At least mid-40s.
Yep. And he looks good bald, because I remember when we saw...
In the trailer, I was so excited. It looked great.
Well, and when I saw the First Class, I was like, I can't picture that guy without hair. And when we finally got it, I was like, oh no, he looks great. I'm also pretty sure that this is why he has such short hair in Split. It's because he shot it real short after this.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, I was talking about something. I can't remember what it was now.
Yeah, we got off on the hair.
In the middle of something, and then the hair happened, and I had to talk about the hair, and what was it?
You were talking about his family and what Mystique says to him, and that in First Class you don't fully buy...
Oh, okay, no. Thank you. Because I would not have gotten back to that. We had the argument about whether or not it made sense that Xavier was as empathetic as he was to what is essentially a serial killer, and I still stand by what I said in that. Here, you're with me on it, right?
It's 20 years of mass murdering.
Yeah,
it's 20 years of murder. Like he has not grown. He has not changed. Everything you've ever seen him do is be a terrorist. And Xavier still just
never brings it up. And then the worst insult is at the very end when he's gonna invite Magneto to join the team.
Hey, by the way, I know that someone just said, "I know you're sad. What if we kill everyone?" And you said, "Yeah, that seems like a good idea. But do you want to join the team?"
But you lost your daughter, and that makes it okay for you to break the law.
Yeah. And there goes Angel. Founding member of the X-Men.
Yep.
My big action scene is I get to survive!
So we can both agree...
Just knock yourself out.
...that, yes, Birdwing Man in X3 is way better than...
Yep.
A younger punk rock Birdwing Man.
Yep. Birdwing Man in X3 is the superior Birdwing Man.
He's the definitive, so far, Birdwing Man.
Hey, he might be in the next movie. They don't care. New character, new cast, not mention this one.
I cannot believe we did that with the hair and tried to play it straight.
See,
not every part of a person's aesthetic in a superhero movie has to be some tragic personal thing.
This is how...
Or have an origin at all.
Oh my god, flashback.
I forgot we did this.
This is how we think we are...
The one little flashback we did with Mystique and him from Days of Future Past, First Class, we decided was necessary. This is nonsense. Sorry.
This is how we think we're getting away with being... The X-Men movie, that is the X-Men movies that we've been, and doing this huge epic trying to compete with Marvel's scale, is we're resolving this with a conversation. That's how we're trying to coalesce those two things, right? She's talking to him, she's not punching him.
Yeah.
The problem is...
That's more X-Men.
It's really dumb, and nothing that's
It's too easy.
His motivation is dumb. How he gets there is dumb. Like, everything that gets me to that point is already dumb. And then her argument to bring him back is also dumb.
Yeah, and you don't buy that he's actually turned around by it.
I didn't buy that he was turned in this place.
No, I didn't either.
Cool. We're bald buddies.
And if you stand real still, I can give you these things, Xavier. I can make that happen for you, too.
Why is he yelling, show yourself? This is dumb. This is really bad. He's got godlike power, and this can be done to him. Oh, that's right. It's not really him, right? Isn't that the thing here? Isn't the twist here that it's not really him?
I don't remember.
Nope, never mind. It is really him. Man, that's dumb.
Yeah, nope. but see, he wins out at the end, Eric, so he's still, you know, more powerful and more godlike and all that.
No, the way you play that dramatically is he tries to do that and it punches him and nothing happens.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know if he has any control over, like, space-time or relative speed or whatever.
But he should just be so powerful that like, he punches him, just nothing happens.
Again, I don't know how powerful he really is.
He seems to be all-powerful.
Except for when he's not. He's got healing factor. I'd also really like to understand how evolution works in this universe, because the first mutant has like all the powers, is like the most powerful of them, and then as we evolve and get more mutation, most of us get one.
It's a recessive gene that was recessive for like 4,000 years and then degenerated over those 4,000 years.
It's funny, because in X3, Jean herself is a recessive gene.
That's a...
Why is she transforming right now?
I don't know.
Why does choking her make her, like, ripple?
I don't know.
Why is that a thing? You're supposed to have the answers, Eric! Why don't you have the answers?
No one has the answers for this movie, it sucks! You know what I don't have with X3? What's going on? Why is anyone doing anything?
Yeah, this is rougher than I remember.
X3 is a more coherent, more competently made film.
Yeah, I just found more of his choices, like, offensive.
Yeah, but I know what those choices are.
Someone invested in that franchise, but yeah, I mean... And it still has some tonal problems, but not to this level.
Oh, and this was the thing that annoyed me in the theater. Because in the trailer, we showed him growing giant. In the comics, he has complete control of his like, mass.
You want to see that actually happen.
And so he could really grow, and I was like, that's super cool. Oh, it's in the mind? Oh, my...
And same year, we just straight up do it with Ant-Man.
Yep. No, it would have felt cool and different if the villain of the film could grow giant. We'd never done anything like that. We've still never done anything like that in the Superman movie where they're the villain. Like, this would have been awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, not in the movie around it, because this whole movie sucks and every choice is bad, but...
See, Power Rangers should have done it. Power Rangers should have made Rita herself grow.
Yeah, that
would have been pretty cool.
That happens once.
It does.
Or at least happens in Zyuranger.
No, it happens more than once.
Does it?
Yeah, she and Zed both do it together at one point.
Okay, well, it happens at least once in Zyuranger. So I don't know if it happens in Season 1, but I know it happens in...
And we even do it with the Green Ranger.
Oh, yeah!
Yeah, sometimes Rangers will grow big.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I know, we're talking about Power Rangers again, but it's monsters growing. What are you gonna do? Make my apocalypse grow. Make my apocalypse grow!
This is also dumb. Now it's dumb.
This is real insightful commentary we have here.
It's so dumb.
Yeah, and isn't it amazing how super silly that feels? But, and for anybody that hasn't seen Logan, I don't want to give anything away, but the X thing we do at the end of Logan, how not dumb that was, right?
Yep. Well, here's the problem, is they... Okay, not only is it silly in general, but they're trying to stop him from moving. It's a big walkway right there! It doesn't impede his forward momentum at all!
Nah, he's just making a statement. That's just a statement.
I'm gonna throw things at you because you had me throw things everywhere!
Can you believe the bizarre, like, gambit of quality that we've run now with
just
all
the
the
X-Men films
in this franchise, especially when you count Deadpool and Logan? Isn't that bizarre?
Yep.
Every part of the spectrum.
You have okay movies, you have amazing movies, you have trash. And this is one of
you have
three.
Incomprehensible movies.
Yeah. And then you've got X2, Logan,
This viewing,
First Class, and Days of Future Past.
I hate to say this, man. I really do. And I'm going to get flack for this. But this viewing, this feels Origins rough.
I think it's better directed and acted than Origins, but writing-wise,
I'm talking about
better.
the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're certainly missing bits because we're talking over it. Like,
Yeah.
we'll say that, but...
Yeah, I may feel differently when I write about it. I hope so.
None of... This is such a all-over-the-place script.
And I might just be watching with you. You honestly, Eric, you ruin things for me. You do. You tend to ruin my viewing experience when we watch things. When you don't like a movie.
It's thematically all over the place. It's plots all over the place. We stopped for 20 minutes to go to Weapon X for no reason. That served as the second act for our main characters.
I was joking when I said that. That was a joke. Don't cry. Eric's gonna cry, and it's not because he finds this movie compelling.
I need you to do something we haven't set up at any point in this movie.
My house!
But if you remember the previous movies that this director made, perhaps you can find it in yourself to out of nowhere, literally Deus Ex Machina.
So, Gene, just so you know, I repressed your dominant personality, which is real scary and wants to take over everything. It kind of reminds me of Apocalypse, really, except has a little more personality and it's a little more fun and spunky.
And I know that it's crazy, so I don't need a motivation for it.
I only did this to you 3 months ago, so it's probably already still bubbling up to the surface a little bit anyway. Would you do me a favor and let that out?
Okay, but he's not alone because he had 4 horsemen that like kind of believed in him and worked with him. This wants to be such a bigger, more epic moment than it is. This needed to be built to. Because I want to like this. And it really feels like Bryan Singer being like, but I never got to do Phoenix.
I want him to say... And then he's talking about doing it next time. It's like, well, you might still get to do that. What's wrong with you? And remember, he was talking about how he's burnt out with these. That's why you don't rush another one in 2 years.
Yeah, I started talking about that, and so he says that he has a conversation with another director who goes, "What are you just gonna keep making X-Men movies for the rest of your career?" Remember, 10-year gap between 2 and First Class, or Days of Future Past, and then this movie. What was that guy talking about? That guy's a jerk.
Yeah.
And he's like, he felt like he feels trapped by these, or he talked about how he feels like he's trapped by these X-Men movies, but he still wants to be involved. He doesn't necessarily want to make another one immediately. And I was like, what? You just came back. You did nothing but failed movies in between.
Gene, don't control your power. Embrace it.
And again, like in X2, it's ambiguous because we're setting up Phoenix, like we don't know what that is.
Here, it's just
this
she's
also
that powerful.
Can't have anything to do with the comic book. It's not a cosmic force. It's not, unless she got it when she was a kid.
Yeah, unless that's...
Like,
unless literally the Phoenix is part of her mutant powers, and Xavier, because he can read her mind, somehow or rather knows that before she does.
Yeah, and
but I don't know how reading a person's mind you would know a thing they can't know. That's the thing I don't get, because that wouldn't even be subconscious, right? Like, I don't understand that.
I don't get it.
How does he know that she has this much power? It's a question. There might be a question with an answer, but I don't fully get that part of it.
And this is just not... I don't know, the special effect is fine. It's not inspiring.
It doesn't mean anything.
No. And it's just her going,
Yeah, I'm watching the movie. I saw that.
That's all she's doing. Like, it's not how the Phoenix... Like, the Phoenix is not just a literal force that just goes out from Jean. I don't know if anyone knows this. The Phoenix is not Jean Grey's power.
Yeah.
It is an other force that merges with her... And that's not even necessarily true because complications of continuity. But theoretically, as written, is an exterior force that merges with her and has its own personality that merges with Jean Grey. It is
the reason
there's her. I'll see you next time, Gadget.
Yeah, the next time. The important thing to keep in mind, though, is that kind of like Black Costume Spider-Man, she had a costume and was called the Phoenix for a while. And that's why we keep doing that. Is because we haven't made her anything but Jean Grey. We don't call her Marvel Girl or anything. So when... part of the reason that I think, obviously part of it is Dark Phoenix Saga is real popular, and we want to make her all mysterious. But it's also because that's the moniker she's most well known by.
Right, but everyone wants to rush to Dark Phoenix. There's a Phoenix Saga before you get to Dark Phoenix. There are things to do with that character before you do the you have to earn it.
No, I know that. I get that. All I'm saying is, it doesn't have to be the Force from space necessarily.
No, it doesn't have to be the Force from space.
You could make. You're saying like you sometimes do that. Well, this is what it is, so it's wrong. But like, it could be her power if they wanted to make it that.
Yeah,
it could be that.
Yeah,
but I don't know what it means if it's not rebirth. Like, it doesn't mean anything. I really resist. Even if that's what you want to do with it, we're flashbacking again.
Because she's getting all the memories.
And I forgot about the whole memory thing. Yeah, that's right. I forgot we did that. I retract that. That's not a big deal. No,
that one works there.
But I really resist doing Phoenix in any way at all when you first meet Jean Grey.
Yeah. You need to know who Jean Grey is before you can know what she is with Phoenix. You need to know who she is.
What is there to rise from the ashes when you're 16? Like,
well, and we need to know who she is before she's all powerful. If you're not...
Yeah.
And nothing about this movie inspires me and makes me excited to see them tackle Phoenix.
Mm-mm.
And I think it's too soon. I don't want Phoenix to be the next movie. There are other things to do, and at this point, with
there's an argument to be made that if you that with the right, just hear me out, with the right tone, because they're doing 90s and it's 93, that would if the stars align be precisely the time you'd want to see it.
Why? That's not when the comic came out.
Because of the cartoon.
But it's not even the biggest deal with that cartoon. I mean, it's a big story, but I feel like you could make that argument for any story they did. You could also make the argument they should do Phoenix Saga and go to space.
Yeah.
And with the tone, I actually think something that I didn't think with X2, I think you can go to space in this universe at this point.
All I'm saying is, if they went with an animated series 90s tone, Phoenix is one of the things that would be cool to see with that, I think.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things people most remember about that show.
Well, and they've almost kind of been...
You can say there are bigger stories. Are there more memorable stories? No. There's nothing in that show that people talk about more than that besides maybe Days of Future Past.
I've never heard anybody talk about the Dark Phoenix Saga specifically from that show.
I have.
Okay. The only time I ever hear people bring up Dark Phoenix Saga is when they're talking about the comics. I've never heard anybody be like, I did the show. Especially because the show's ending is weird because she doesn't die.
Well, I have because there are lots of people that only know that show and remember that as being one of the big important stories. And some people like talk about X-Men like they know the comics because they know that show. And that's one of the big things.
And that led to a lot of really annoying reviews of Days of Future Past where people complaining about Bishop.
Yeah. Yeah.
He looks so good!
Yeah. And he should have been this way the whole movie, I think.
No, I agree.
Because he looks older, too!
Yep. Yep.
And they're doing that whole thing. Yep. And that's so weird. It's so weird that you would say, because it was
just
a threat.
Almost murdered the entire world.
But the first time he said that in the old in the old continuity, it was a threat.
I'm not going to worry about where you're going or what you're doing. Do you agree with me? Because I know not everybody agrees with me. These are terrible costumes. They are big, bulky armor that we threw on some things to make it look like the costumes you remember, and so everyone's like, but they're the 90s costumes. Thing. Like, I mean, that kind of looks like her comic book costume. I guess what they're going for with that. But, and she's in charge now, but she's not coming back for the next movie. But 10 years, so who cares? Anything can happen in 10 years.
Yeah, no, I didn't like these costumes either.
They just...
I like that they're not all wearing the same thing, though.
Yeah, but, like, they're bulky, ugly armor that has barely the trappings of the 90s cartoon costumes.
Nightcrawler's getting angry.
Yeah.
Like he's been in this movie or something.
Yeah. I like that they're going to fight Sentinels in the Danger Room. That's kind of cool. And they're purple now. Were they purple in Days of Future Past?
Yeah.
Okay. Never mind then. Right.
Yeah, because remember I complained that they should have been red, white, and blue.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Simon Kinberg. Wow, that's a lot of people. None of them are Brian K. Vaughan. Matthew Vaughn. He didn't produce it either. Oh man, he had no involvement with this movie. That's sad. You could tell.
Yeah, it's just real hollow.
Which makes me worried now that maybe Singer wasn't what made Days of Future Past work. Maybe it was Vaughn. Maybe we need him on this franchise, and we all just assumed it was
I also think
Singer.
he got burnt out real fast.
This, I know I've talked to you about this. I don't know if I've said it on camera. But very famously making Jurassic Park The Lost World, Steven Spielberg talked about how, like, when he started that movie, he was so excited to make it. And then halfway through, he realized...
No, you've talked about that on camera.
Oh, I don't want to make this movie.
Right.
I don't know if that's what this is, because not a frame of this feels like anyone's excited to make this movie.
Mm-mm.
But...
I don't understand the shift in quality of storytelling that happens so fast after your last one, which I was so involved in.
Yeah.
So involved in. I'll watch that movie 100 times.
Can you tell me what the themes of this movie are?
I can tell you what
the ideas of this movie are?
I can tell you what they were in the room before Kinberg goes to write it. You know.
It's just, it's such a... I was so excited for this movie. I was like, the X-Men movies have the potential to be something real special and, like, come out of nowhere, and, like, nobody expects this to be the biggest movie. I think this has the potential to be the best movie of the year, the best superhero movie of the year.
Yeah.
Because I loved the previous two, and, like...
You wouldn't have thought...
And the trailers looked cool.
At the very least, even if it kind of fell apart, you wouldn't have expected to use the word generic to describe this movie. And it really feels that way
almost
to me.
exactly what I would imagine a superhero movie would look like if I'd never seen a superhero movie.
20 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? It kind of feels like the X-Men movie you would make in the 90s.
Yeah.
Yep,
before you've made any.
That's exactly what it is.
at least storytelling quality, and just tonally and understanding what I'm looking at, like character motivations and stuff. It's not even as good as X-Men 1.
No. This is a bad movie.
I don't know. It's painful to say that.
I wanted to love this movie. I was so excited for this.
I was too. And again, it's worse because of the clean slate.
Yep, they could have done.
I don't mean to keep driving that home, but we had this big wonderful. I mean, mostly clean slate. They decided it was cleaner than it should have been. You know, they have this
bits that were inherent in the plate.
Yeah, you have this clean slate, but right behind it, there's a few things written down that you still have to kind of adhere to, you know?
Mystique criminal on television, wipe that away.
To be on a level playing field.
Mystique running, or taking Wolverine, wipe that away. Future can change, wipe that away. And
I was willing to roll with character age changes and stuff. I mean, that's still